This lie is protected by what's called a waived, unacknowledged special access program, which essentially means the dirtiest secret of all inside the US military-industrial complex. These are the most highly protected secrets in the United States. And these WUSAPs require anyone read into these programs to lie.
Imagine everything you've been taught, whether it's through Sunday school or through regular formal education in school, or what our political leaders have told us. And yes, even maybe our mothers and fathers around the dinner table have told us, or maybe at bedtime, about who we are, right? And our background and our past. What if all of that turned out to be not entirely accurate?
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years. I know the exact locations.
I should also state clearly for the record that in our research, AARO has found no credible evidence thus far of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the known laws of physics.
So, sir, I need to get an express statement from you. Yeah. What is your position about the truthfulness of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick in the evidence he gave last week to Congress?
I think that it was a transparent, willful, conscious lie.
There I am. Good evening, folks. Welcome to Alien Night on a fine, luxurious evening. It's luxurious, all right, because I've got you all watching this show. And without further ado, guys, the guests are going to be here with us very, very shortly. However, make sure you check out the merch because it's got a few days left before it just comes off. We replace it with new merch. And make sure you check us out on all your audio goodie channels, Spotify, Apple Music, you name it, we're on it. Yeah, without further ado, folks, Nick, my lad, how are we doing?
I'm good, man. Yeah,
good, bro. I'm fantastic, mate. All the best for seeing you. Been a while. Ice cream? It's not ice cream. He's dropped the ice cream. The ice cream's fallen out of the cone. It's just terrestrial Matt.
Yeah, I got sick of people calling me a self-licking ice cream cone, so I got it out of there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also, you didn't know you could change your Twitter handle, but
true. It definitely props for helping me change that. But yeah, it's Terrestrial Matt. I made one T though, one T. You know. And
Ashton, the man who's gonna discover who Ivan 0135 is, Skinny Bob's dad.
Nice to be here, man.
I would love you to do that case, by the way. That would be my dream come true.
That's the Skinny Bob case?
Yeah, I honestly, that would be, if you delved into that and you found out who Ivan 0135 was. I think you're the only guy that can do it.
There's a big list. People want me to do the mummies. They wanted me to do Kate Middleton, who just came out. Apparently says now she has a cancer diagnosis. They want me to look into the Skinny Bob thing, and now we've got a terrorist attack in Russia. So it's been a wild day here today, huh? Cheers, guys.
Yeah. Oh yes, he's got a martini. Cheers.
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 Is it shaken or?
This is actually my leftover one from last night. So if you've been following my Twitter, I stayed up most of the night watching the 3-body problem. I had to see if there was anything, relevant to stuff that I've been talking about going on in that show. And then I had couple of too many martinis, so I was like, I threw this one in the fridge for today. I was like, okay, I'm good on that.
So go there you go. A spoiler. Is there anything that's kind of linked to it?
There's some aspects that I think are worthwhile to talk about. I don't want to spoil anything because I think it's fun to just go into without knowing if you're somebody who doesn't know what it's all about. But I definitely think there's some stuff that we will incorporate and talk about here today. With respect to, without spoiling it, related to like the MH370 videos, I'd say the stuff they definitely touch on is like faster than light communication is something that definitely gets some play, as well as quantum entanglement gets talked about. So it does use kind of contemporary physics. And then it broaches this idea of, you know, can there be other civilizations that are much, much more advanced than we are, right? Like we look, and this is, you know, we should definitely talk about this, but the idea that, like, you know, our civilization's between 10 and 50,000 years old, like that's how far back our modern history goes. You know, imagine there was a civilization, and this doesn't directly talk about this, but imagine there's a civilization that's like 1 million years you know, more advanced than we are, or something. Like, what would that even look like, right? And I think that's a pretty fun thing to think about, you know.
Have you seen the Apple one? There's it's called Invasion.
Oh no, I haven't seen that. No,
like when you are looking at an alien in that, and we speak about aliens with 2 arms, 2 legs, big head, 2 eyes, belly, bugger all, mouth, let's face it, nostrils, but they and they don't have any genitals. Kind of weird, but they do look like us. You know, they've got the same things. The Invasion is very well done without putting any spoilers out there. It's all very much like graphene, these aliens, and it's weird. It's really good. It's on Apple TV, people.
Kind of topic related to that, I was talking to Brad Voorhees, who visited Mark Sokol at Falcon Space Labs, and he was trying to work on some anti-gravity devices that he had thought up. And we had a discussion last Saturday, and one thing that he brought up, which I had seen in the news, or I don't know where I found it, somewhere on social media, was that apparently crabs have independently evolved into that shape 5 different times on planet Earth. So it's like there is this idea that creatures probably do kind of tend towards specific shapes, right? Maybe body shapes as well. And I thought that was just really interesting in general, because it goes to the idea in the UFO community of like, are aliens going to look like us, or are they going to look completely foreign, right? Not sure.
Well, there was a thing out, and I think it was a few years back, where we were trying to decide whether the octopus was an alien or not. Do you remember?
I'm not sure. I mean, I think the debate's still raging right now.
I won't eat them anymore. It used to be my favorite seafood was octopus. I mean, they're great. It tastes incredible, but I won't eat them because they're so intelligent. It's like, you know, that could be Frederick there that I'm eating. And you know, it's like,
listen, I'm gonna dip Frederick in the ranch, and it's gonna be glorious, dude. You pass that calamari my way all day long. Come on.
Well, calamari is different. That's the squid.
Same idea, same thing.
Yeah, but it's not as intelligent. You know, the squids, I think, more like the chimpanzee of the human, whereas the octopus is the bees.
The tentacle's still moving is what gets me out. Like, you chop out the tentacle, it's still squigging around. That's I'm out on that one. You got that. Terrestrial without the ice cream. Joe Biden ate his ice cream off. He's no more ice cream anymore.
Yeah. So
absolutely.
So boys, I've been kind of we've been out of this for the past 2 weeks when all this, well, let's say the past week when all this has gone down. We've had shows to do, we've had guests to interview, we've had guests that have got alien daughters to interview. We've done it all. Now, yeah, you'll have to go back to last week to know what I'm talking about there. What do you guys think to what's going on right now? And just by the thumbnail alone, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not saying anybody's a government shill or anything like that. It's just a thumbnail, people. We love you here. But what do you think is going on?
Who wants to go first?
Anybody.
Nick, you go first.
Yeah, Nick's
sorry, I'm
quiet.
looking at chat. Sorry. Ashton, you go ahead.
Okay. You guys know that I don't mind naming names, calling people out, what have you. So, recently we had this Arrow report come out. Arrow report says, no, there's no extraterrestrial elements going on. I dug into it. I definitely think they're playing word games, is my opinion, as they're being very careful about exactly the wording they use. If you look at the chart of all the different possibilities when it comes to non-human intelligence, like taking out the extraterrestrial ones, are like one column, right? There's still like 20 more possibilities just for the ultra-terrestrial hypothesis, right? And I think that's where, if you kind of read between the lines and what some people are saying, is I think that's where most people are now thinking, is this idea that it's weirder than we imagine. They could be in our oceans. They could be coming from some other dimension. They could be future humans. So I also talked about that with Brad Voorhees in general. But my true opinion, on the UFO community in general, is that I don't think anyone really, I think a lot of the celebrity UFO people out there don't really know all the in-depths, how dark it can possibly get on that sense, right? I think a lot of them are just infatuated with this idea of blue aliens coming to visit us from another planet, right? And not really into the deep dark of it, of like, is it possible that we can actually have some sort of retro causality situation of, being able to talk to the past, understand, get messages from the future? Is it possible there's another cousin of ours living on our planet that are out there? I don't actually think that anybody's really disinformation. I just think that everybody has their own beliefs about stuff. And I think that for some people that are even willing to believe that there are aliens visiting us, there's certain aspects that are they're too far for them, to really consider and what have you. So I think when you navigate through all these entangled narratives that are out there, you can kind of see that there's a little bit of a path that kind of brings everything together. And as you guys know, for me, it's the technology that's related to all of that. I don't think that however how far we've advanced right now, using computers, talking like this, iPhones that are this tiny, that are as powerful as my computer, it doesn't feel like something that we've naturally accomplished. If we have, then we're already approaching the singularity, I think, where we hit a point where it's like we become the machine or whatever is going to happen. I don't really know. But I think that there's something that's happened in the past that's given us a little bit of a leg up. And now maybe we are reverse engineering it. The last thing I'll say on this front kind of goes back to that 3-body problem show that we were talking about before we went live here, is I think people should think about, like, if there is another civilization out there that's, let's say, 1 million years more advanced than we are, technology that's way, way, way far advanced, how long would it take us to catch up? Would it take 1 million years? Probably not, right? Would it take 1,000 years? Not sure. Would it take 10 years? What is actually holding us back from catching up to that technology? If it's just a discovery, like discovering fire, then theoretically might not take that long. It might just take us reimagining or kind of opening our minds to what is really possible. So there you go, guys. There's my monologue.
I'm clipping that.
Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, you make interesting points there. I mean, going back to like the Arrow report, yeah, that's quite a speech you made there, Ashton. I don't have everything to actually count it. Balance that, to be honest with you. But going back to the Arrow report, I believe that Sean Kirkpatrick has not seen the evidence. There's someone behind the scenes, I'm saying the intelligence agency, who is stopping access. I believe, before we have disclosure about aliens, I want to see what Lockheed Martin's got, what military technology they actually have. And I guarantee it is something so futuristic. This is what got me into like UFOs, is what the military has. Regardless whether or not it's actually, reverse engineering spacecraft. But yeah, I'm coming to the realization that Arrow is just a complete waste of time. Sean Kirkpatrick, in a certain extent, I believe he's telling the truth, because he has not seen the evidence. He's seen the very bare minimal amount of, balls of light in the sky, or they're China, they're Russian. So it's the very common theme of blaming somebody else. But yeah, there's technology out there, guys, that we are never going to see. Let's just face facts, unless the science comes forward and presents it to us, then that's a whole different matter. But yeah, that's my thoughts on that one.
Quick follow-up on the Lockheed Martin thing. So I posted a clip, I think, earlier this week that was Jeremy Corbell claiming that Commander Fravor had been contacted by the CIA. He was the commander that saw the Tic Tac in person, not the video, but actually saw it in person at the Nimitz incident in 2004.
Tried to chase it.
Tried to chase it, right? Saw it hovering above the water or whatever, and saw it like essentially teleport, for lack of a better word. Apparently, the CIA contacted him, according to Jeremy Corbell, and tried to convince him that what he saw was Lockheed Martin technology. That's pretty weird to me, right? When I think about that, I go, wait a minute. I've been saying it's Lockheed Martin technology. I think Nick is just like going, yeah, I want to see what Lockheed Martin has. Arrow report, if you read between the lines, is essentially saying, no, we think they're not saying there's not anomalous stuff out there. They're saying like, oh, it's probably our stuff, right? And it's not aliens, right? Which I don't know. I think maybe we shouldn't just dismiss that right away. Anyway, go ahead.
What do you just quickly there? What do you think to our friend Corbell?
Yeah, I think that it's been, for me especially, I think I've got a pretty unique perspective since I came from the outside, right? And I had no idea what would happen. Like early on, I was like, this person's a disinformation agent. No, this person's one, right? Yeah. And people still think that, right? I think that the CIA and the intelligence community loves that, right? Because they don't have to do any work. Everybody else is just calling everyone else a disinformation agent, right? Distraction, whatever it is. Everybody's infighting with one another. Nothing can get solved. I actually think that very few people, if any at all, are actually like straight up, here's your paycheck, go lie to people, right? I think instead what you have happen is people have connections, they know people, right? And then they get fed little bits of information and they're forming their own perspective and worldview about what's going on related to the phenomenon. So I think that Jeremy Corbell is telling his truth. I think that he's got good intentions. I think that he does want to get disclosure out there. But when I hear stuff like he goes on Joe Rogan and talks about, what does he say? Supercapacitors, right? Instead of superconductors and stuff like that. It makes me wonder, like, does he really understand the technological implications here, right? I think that the one thing I wish the UFO community did more was that more people, not just investigating, which is definitely one of the things I'd like, but actually looking into the science of it. Like later tonight, I'm going to do a stream on the delayed choice eraser double slit experiment variant. And I think I'm getting like really close to how we can actually like teleport an object. Like this experiment basically brings into question whether or not we can actually impact the past or that we can get messages from the future just based on watching light get entangled and go down various paths. It's pretty wild. It's mind-blowing stuff.
What time's that on, Ashton, from now?
Whenever I'm done with this and get some food and what have you, it's probably going to be 3 hours from now is probably when I'm going to put it together. But yeah, I've been sitting there thinking about it, researching it, and I think I can actually like drop my own diagram and explain it to people logically. It's wild stuff. Like the reality is just as weird as like magic is. Like that's the crazy thing about the real world that we live in.
Well, if anybody's been living under a rock and doesn't know who you are, the channel is in the description, people. But go on then, Matt.
Yeah, I mean, when you say what's going on right now, I mean, are you referencing to just the phenomenon itself or more like ufology? Because itself, as far as like disclosure is concerned, because I guess the way that I view it is I look at the ufology in terms of disclosure, right? So like what's going on in the process in the world right now, what's going on with kind of both sides. You see right now, both sides are kind of playing a trust me bro game, except Arrow's doing a little bit better of a job right now, unfortunately. And you could argue that, but I mean, they're the ones that are putting out paperwork and Kirkpatrick's running around doing interviews, talking about things like that. They're kind of on a running riot with everything right now. So they're just kind of leading the pack. And so when I look at it, what's coming maybe for the rest of the year and what's going on right now, what could lead to that, you kind of have three camps that you can join up. If you want to say that, you can kind of go as far as like true believer side and kind of just take all the whistleblowers. They're going to come out, sit on your hands, wait for them. Or you could go along with Arrow, like a lot of people are doing right now too. They're kind of blackpilling and hey, there's nothing here. And you can kind of join that team. But I think the third one is Congress. Congress right now, I think, is the most important with what they're doing because they're kind of investigating in on everybody. They're kind of playing the middle ground area and really looking for what they can pull out, whether that's a new subcommittee that we can bring in, we can subpoena, people from Arrow, see what's been going on. Are they telling lies? These guys seem legit, but they can also bring in more whistleblowers, and they can get those people into SCIF. So if they get that subpoena power, if they get the subcommittee, they can get some more information that's that way. So I think what's really interesting, the topic is Congress. And it's low and slow for sure, but we know that they are making moves. And like, just for instance, like Eric Burleson has Grush's op-ed. We don't have that. I don't think any Arrow has that. I don't think anybody on the other side of the True Believer side has that. So they're really where I'm kind of cluing in on. And I know Shane said the other night, well, there's kind of a fourth. You could, join Team Phenomena, wait for them to kind of show themselves. But I don't know. I think that's there, but it's been 80 plus years or even more years. You could wait for that. I don't know. The way I view it is I go, what has the most potential though right now to really get the ball down the field? I think Congress is really important. And I would always suggest to people to don't lose that, really focusing on see what they're doing. And I think you could get a little bit of progress down the road.
Do you think they're going to actually give us disclosure through Congress? I mean, what would be like a big win in your opinion for what Congress could reveal?
It's our best chance, I think, for anything. I mean, they seem to be, it's weird to say that they're a neutral party, but that's how wild things are right now. They're kind of the most neutral at it, just out and out. The biggest win, I don't know, that they actually are able to get behind a SCIF and be able to follow up on what Arrow's been saying and maybe pull out some BS here from what Arrow's talking. Maybe they can find out what really happened with Kona Blue. Kona Blue is a big thing right now. I mean, I know people are kind of talking about it, but it does shed a lot of light on, Lou, this entire, like your thumbnail, the PSYOP, you have all these people that are involved in this. And what's recently came out with Kona Blue, which I forgot about the other.
Matt, just for 1 second, because I watched your show and I watched Sci-Fi News' show the other day talking about Kona Blue. But for my audience, can you just break that down really quickly? And I don't know if Nick might know what it is.
I forgot to, so I need a refresher here.
Yeah, I need
no, that's cool.
Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, so what Kona Blue is essentially is it's the supposed program that came after ATIP. That essentially Jim Lukatsky ended up saying, hey, after the funding ran out and ATIP couldn't progress forward, they tried one more time and they failed. That is what it seems like what Kona Blue is. And we kind of wondered, what's that program name? Now, the other interesting thing that I thought about the other day is that if you look back about 2 years ago, Stephen Greenstreet did an interview with Eric Davis. And Eric Davis, he asked him, is ATIP done or is it going on? And he goes, nope, it's still going on. I'm a consultant for the program. Which was interesting. He said consultant, because if he'd have said, are you paid consultant? If you'd have followed up with that, we'd have got a little bit further down the road, I think, with understanding what happened with him. But I digress. This is kind of the program that they started up, and Bigelow wanted to get to transfer that supposed UFO craft from Lockheed Martin, and they were trying to build up that SAP, that PSAP. That was what was really, really important for them. Now, Kirkpatrick is saying there was like 6 other parts of that program they were trying to build, which is pretty interesting. And we don't really have like conclusion that comes to that. But Kona Blue is the program that's supposed to house all of this alien back engineered tech that they tried to get off the ground, which in my opinion, from when you look at it, it didn't. I don't think it went anywhere, but that's kind of a quick synopsis of what that program is.
So why is it? Because I'll be honest with you, this Kona Blue, for me, it's just popped up out of nowhere. I've never heard of this before. Why all of a sudden are we hearing it?
Well, because I think Kirkpatrick, and this is why I say that whole Arrow report in Kirkpatrick, it's a mind bend.
I don't think I've heard it till 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, no, you haven't. Nobody said anything about it. Grush hasn't even talked about it. I mean, these are all the kind of the program names that they've walked around and hit around. But that's what makes it such a mind bend, because I think that there are some hidden truths in that Arrow report, even though I think it's biased, it's leaning. The Pentagon is doing a great job at kind of taking their own narrative back. But I think that there are things that are there. And I think you can sum that up with, look at the work that Greenstreet's done over time. We've seen this stuff. Like, we've seen what happened with ATIP and OSAP. The documentation is not just from Arrow that proves that those programs were not really doing what they said they were, to be nice about it. So it's you kind of have to look at the history of it. But the program comes out now because I think he was able to get behind the scenes and actually see some things. and pull some documents that we weren't ever going to be able to. And that's the tough part too, because there's a classified version of the report that's coming out that we'll never be able to see, man. And that might even shed a little bit more light on what really happened with Kona Blue from the begin with.
Ashton, when you hear things like that, and the research that you've done with MH370 to the UFO community, because and this is really why, like, the whole title of this show and the thought behind it is because I for one, I don't understand how anybody is trusting anybody in this. Because how would you trust government bodies? How would you, like, when it comes to this subject? This subject has gone on for such a long time. This subject has gone on since it got boots, was Roswell, let's face it. That's when it got legs. But it seems that we made some progress from 2017. And now somebody all of a sudden has realized, holy shit, the genie is out of the bottle here. And we need to try and get that thing back in. That's what it seems like right now that they are doing. I don't know what you think about that, but to me, it seems like somebody's pushing back because somebody's getting close to something.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I think they're trying to walk it back. I think they're trying to put the genie back in the bottle. I think they're trying to close Pandora's box. I think it started to get too big. Even in the MH370 case, I think we saw this happen, right? The moment it starts getting too big, all of a sudden the debunks start coming out of the one-day-old Redditor accounts start appearing out of nowhere, right? With their pictures and stuff like that, where it's like, no, everybody stop looking at this, right? Don't look at this anymore. I think they're doing the same thing where now is getting too much attention. There's too much credibility. There's too many videos out there that are anomalous, right? To me, it's just a question of what's the nature of it. There is something going on here, right? And even when you look at the Arrow report, you can still tell there's something happening here. We know we've got some advanced technology. Russia, Putin's basically already said for probably like 10 years that they have hypersonic weapons. People have just been ignoring that, right? Like hypersonic weapons should be freaking people out more than nukes, but we're still thinking about nukes for some reason, right? Like hypersonics is the next level up. And if we've got something higher than that, well, what is that, right? That's got to be something that's basically equivalent to magic to us. And I know for sure, without any doubt at all, that, like Ross Coulthart said in the intro you put in there, there's special access programs that we have engineers and scientists that are going to that they can never say anything about them. It's that many layers of secrecy, right? Where they're working on stuff that we would think of as magic. Now, the question is really, what's the nature of that? Does it come from extraterrestrials, non-human intelligence of some sort? Did we just figure that out ourselves, going all the way back to Manhattan Project, Philadelphia experiment, stuff like that? That's the question for me. And that's why when the Arrow report came out, a lot of people were upset about it, angry about it. For me, I'm just shrugging, like, okay, so yeah, doesn't really change anything. Like, first of all, I never trust, since I've been going and digging into this stuff, I'm never going to trust government again at its face. But I think that doesn't mean they can't tell the truth. It just means you need to verify everything with actual hard factual evidence, as opposed to trust me, bro, kind of stuff, right? On any topic, UFOlogy related, whether it goes back to the pandemic or anything, right? Like, I'm not going to look at models. I need to see the hard evidence, show me videos, show me corroborating data that goes along with it. I just think that the last option, in terms of the teams and what have you, it's like, I don't think that the aliens are going to show themselves. Like, they would have done that already, right? That's the problem I struggle with. It's been 80 years and, this is the one time I accept the argument of everybody's got a phone. We would have had more videos of, little green men walking around or whatever, if that was the case. But that's where I think it can get more sinister, right? I've been thinking about this a lot. I've been watching the 3-body problem, where it's like, I'm honestly starting to lean towards what I call the Gurren Lagann hypothesis, which is an anime show, but I'll break it down for you guys very quickly, is the idea that once you hit a level of technological advancement, then like the super advanced civilization comes in and just slaps you back down, right? Puts you back down. And like, it's like you're an animal that gets out of the cage and they go, oh, sorry, we got to tranquilize you and put you back in the cage. And, maybe we'll flash you like in Men in Black and make you forget about what you've figured out, right? To me, that would be dark enough to explain what's been going on, the technology that seems really, really far advanced, and then the idea of why the government would need to keep it secret. I think that's the one application people, or the consideration people should keep in the back of their minds. What would be dark enough for the government to lie about it for 80 years, 100 years, however long it's been?
Yeah, I would also add, you know, and I do find that we must be getting somewhere close, somewhere along the last, especially the last 7 years or so. We must have hit some kind of chord with them, because when Arrow came back around, the interesting thing what's going on with them right now is that they're a Project Blue Book, but they're a forever program now. See, now they just released new documents saying this is how we're going to report these encounters, and the material that we get, the DoD is going to take control of that material. You're going to talk to us now within 96 hours on reports if there wasn't actually a contact. So they said, we're not shutting this down again. See, I think they regret closing Blue Book, because after they closed Blue Book, all of this talk of this went crazy again, and they never really jumped in again, ever again, to try to shut it down. And I think they said, listen, if we're going to do something like Blue Book again, we're going to go over this all again. We're going to lock it up for good this time. We're going to keep this thing alive now, and we're going to shut everything down one case at a time.
I think what would be good, interesting to find out is whether is it 22 trillion or that goes missing, that can't be accounted for the defense budget. Have you ever heard about that?
Yeah.
They haven't passed any audits. It's in the trillions. So I don't know, because they've been adding it up like year over year, you know, in terms of all the money that's just
they
gone.
don't even know how much it is, do they?
No, I'm sure they don't know.
It's an extortionate amount of money, and you think, where the hell is that money going from? I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, the military contractors probably makes the most money through any defense, I would imagine. Arms is like a big thing, so I wouldn't be surprised if a vast majority of that money went to that. But 22 trillion, I mean, come on, I mean, that must be going on some top secret space program or something like that. Who knows?
No, definitely. I think it's not even just, I mean, we can list off the contractors, right? Like Lockheed Martin's public enemy number one. You've got Northrop Grumman. Boeing is one. Boeing Phantom Works. I think that was one where back like 2012 to 2014, they had to make a statement about it because it was kind of like Lockheed Martin Skunk Works. You've got Bigelow Aerospace, Battelle Institute. There's several others, but then there's also the independent contractors as well. The people like, actually, Sean Kirkpatrick is one himself. He's got his own LLC. Ross Coulthart actually broke that. I don't know how that didn't get more attention, because this tells you that he's literally got contracts with the government to be researching the type of stuff, and maybe some of these SAPs as well, and make money off of it, right? And this is where all that money is going, right? I would imagine the money that's going missing is the one that's in those black budget special access programs. The place that I would want to be looking at the most is going to be Los Alamos.
Los Alamos,
and then Huntsville, Alabama, because Huntsville, Alabama, not only was that where Amy Eskridge was from and her father, that's where NASA Marshall Alternate Propulsion Lab is, I believe. So these are the places where I think you're going to find, you know, if they're developing orbs and putting them together that can float around, that's probably where it's all getting, you know, put together.
Yeah. Skunk Works for sure. I mean, Steve Justice, I know he was a big part of TTSA when that first started. I don't think that they went to Skunk Works for no reason. You know, I think that was kind of a dead giveaway that there's been some funny business going on over there. Because like I said, I don't think all of TTSA, and I don't mean to tangent here, but I don't think all of TTSA was bad. I think there are still some clues that are kind of left behind the scenes here at this point. Yeah, there you go, Ali. Thank you. Look at Tom with that tie. Straighten up that damn tie, Tom. Come on.
Yeah, he just look like he's just come out of a nightclub, doesn't he?
Let's just look through the list of people here. I don't recognize the middle one in the far right, but you've got Tom DeLonge. Oh, that's Steve Justice? Okay.
Yep.
So Tom DeLonge, Chris Mellon, Lou Elizondo, Steve Justice, Hal Pudoff, and who's the last person?
Jim Semivan.
And so, you know, the mistake I think they made here, I would almost call it the Bob Lazar mistake, which is that people don't realize that this is an information war. This is a propaganda war that's going on, right? And they're going to look for any vector to discredit you, right? And the vector here is probably Tom DeLonge, unfortunately. You know, guy's Blink 182 band member, you know, dresses like he's, you know, it's like it's wintertime all the time, you know, with hats and what have you. And I mean, right there, actually, he was actually dressed pretty well, respectfully.
That's the Angels and Airwaves era, though, man. He was great back then.
But yeah, no, I think that the thing though is that, you know, they're going to send their attack dogs after you. They're going to develop the narratives and they're going to let the community do the rest, which is, you know, they probably don't even have to ask a lot of people to go ahead and try to discredit other people on there. And once that happens, it doesn't even really matter unless you have some hard, tangible something that you're producing, and all they were producing was movies. Then people are just going to, you know, they're going to ignore you, what have you. I mean, we've had alien bodies get scanned last week. What was that, March 12th or whenever that happened in LA, and the whole thing on it. It wasn't even a blip. Wasn't even a blip in the community, right? That could be full disclosure right there, as UFO Shane would say. And we barely just ignored it, right? So that's what people have to realize. Like, it's not even about proving the case anymore. It's about like a literal propaganda effort to get information out there to people in a way where it comes off as credible, that people can buy into it. That's the sad nature of the UFO community, in my opinion.
I've been guilty of that though, Ashton. Like, especially when you talk about the alien bodies, because like when Dave and Lee was like, we need to talk about these alien bodies, and I says, come on, guys, it looks like paper fucking mache.
It's cake. It's cake.
Yeah. And it's like, no, have you seen the X-rays? I'm like, okay, let's bring it. Let's do a show on it. And then I'm like looking at it, I'm like, I'm like, okay.
That's why it's a good example though, right? Because it's like, I had the same thing where I'm going like, I don't even really care. Like that could actually be aliens, and I just don't even really care. And then I'm going, oh, well, I'm the guy that I'm talking about now, right? Like I'm the one who's just ignoring it.
Yeah, but then you've got sorry, Nick, but you've got Jaime saying, listen, they're here, come and investigate them. So maybe someone should go and investigate them.
So I lost my train of thought then. Just completely went.
Well, that's what Q's wanted me to do. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of these mummies, the scans that they produced, the scans that they produced, it looked like actual real flesh. And I think it was changing people's perspective of saying, oh, these are actual real aliens. But the fact is, you know, these are just, I don't know if the scans were actually tried to make it look like real fleshy aliens as such. But Jaime Maussan, you know, he's got a backtrack record, guys, you know, of faking stuff. So he's probably not the guy to come to say, look, let's produce these aliens and then, you know, bring them out there and hopefully we get disclosure or something like that. But again, I'm just...
Well, no, I was going to say, I mean, look, they could be real, man. I mean, I don't know. But at the same time, like, his track record is so bad that if you don't ship him to Harvard and let him look at it, dude, I just can't. I don't have the time for it. You know, it's just not on my radar at that point in time. You know, there's too much opportunity for it to just be BS again. Like, I'd rather look into what Congress is doing. You see what I mean by when I was talking about that? Like, it's where you where you decide to spend your energy. And it's like, I'm just not going to spend my energy down a road that's already been proven to be crap before.
And so, and this is the part too, though, where it's like comes back to narratives, right? Because if I were to ask you, and I'm not trying to put you down, I'm just trying to challenge you a little bit. Is like, what is something that he's lied about in the past, Jaime, right?
Well, I mean,
people say that, but I haven't heard any specific stuff, right? And I've heard someone say, "Oh, there's a list that's like 40 things long," and I'm going, "Wow, really?"
There is,
I've never heard it, and that makes me wonder, like, because he's just a guy who's kind of propping stuff up, right? He even did a thing on the MH370 videos, reached out to me, or had somebody reach out to me, and you know, he did a clip in Spanish about it. But the reason why I bring this up, and I guess I'll let you jump in after this, because I want to tie this to Stephen Greer. I think that Stephen Greer has a similar problem, where I actually think Stephen Greer's seen actual documents and what have you, going back to the early 2000s and the Clinton administration, and maybe even the 90s. But the problem is that now he's out there, you know, doing CE5 and charging people $4,000 for little powwow camping events, right? And then everyone goes, "Oh, well, he's making money off of it, so it's got to be grifting," right? And I think people think the same thing about Jaime. You know, so what are your thoughts on that in general?
I mean, I don't even know how to like call him a grifter. You know, I don't think that's really even the situation, really. I think it's more of just he's pushing information that's incorrect for maybe potential treasure down the road. You know, there's also like a way you set things up, right? You know, you can set yourself up. You can take a leap of faith and hope that something works out really bad. And then if you crunch it, you nail it, you win, right? So I think maybe if he's not completely behind it, that maybe he's just hoping that that's the case, hoping that they're real in some way. And he's taking somebody else's word for it. I mean, Ashton, the rumor I'm hearing is that he's already backed away from them recently. That's what I just heard last night on Skyfire. Yeah, so he's already disassociating with himself, allegedly. Now, I don't know that for to be fact, but I mean, if that ends up being true, I mean, this is just kind of more of a behavior from him. I know he was like selling fake COVID vaccines. That Shane's got the huge list of stuff there, and then obviously they found on the ones of 2016 that they were
fake COVID vaccines.
I suppose or COVID cures or whatever from Jaime. I mean, that's on the list. I'm just saying that was that's there on the list. So there's a lot of arrows, man. There's a lot of flags that are there. And like I said, if it ends up being real, dude, I'll be the first one to be like, that's great. But why not just send it to Harvard and figure it out? I mean, if you wanted good PR and you wanted people to get behind it, give it to these people. Why not? And that's not to say like Mexico doesn't have good people. Or, like I hear that argument, dude, all the time. And like, I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. The point of the matter is that most US people won't listen though. So it doesn't really matter about that. We have to look past that and be like, okay, most people aren't going to believe the Mexican guys. So let's just move on then. Let's just go ahead and send it to the US and get everybody on board. Like, what are we waiting for then?
Man, not to blackpill everybody, but it just feels like there isn't really a vector for disclosure, right? Like we've got bodies that might literally be real of aliens that nobody's looking at.
That is offering anybody to go and research.
You've got David Grush literally testifying to Congress saying he's seen all these access reports. You got Commander Fravor testifying to Congress saying I literally saw some floating Tic Tac vibrating above the water, right? And I mean, even going back to the thing, I was calling Mick West out like last night, I think, because I think it was Skeptical Believer dug through, what do they call it? The Boca incident where it was like the triangle that was in the green background or whatever. And turns out he had like pulled out 5 seconds of audio that was literally like the military Navy guy going, we've got 4 drones at 1,000 yards away or whatever it is. And he pulled that out because he's trying to convince people that it's stars that they're looking at. When people aren't confusing a drone in the sky with a star that's, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of light years away or whatever it is, however the distance is. So, I think that it becomes like, how do we get anything out, right? I can see why people like Corbell would be like, I'm not even going to bother like trying to argue with people about it. I'm just going to throw videos out there because like no matter what, everything's getting debunked there, and even if it's not totally been debunked, people don't listen anyway. Just kind of feels like a little bit of a black pill moment.
So Ashton, my dad's a massive skeptic, but he saw a UFO out at sea. He's an engineer, and I showed him the video of David Fravor talking about what he'd seen, and we got speaking about Mick West's debunk. And even though my dad is such a skeptic and he has to see it with his own eyes and he doesn't trust anybody, his back got put up against the wall because he's like, that guy's a fighter pilot. And you're telling me that some guy, he says, what does he do? I says, well, he made a few computer games back in the day and now he does Metabunk. He says, so you're telling me this guy is telling me that this fighter pilot that does this for his country doesn't know the difference between a bird or whatever it is and an object that is flying faster than he knows what to do with it. Yeah. He says it's insulting.
Or Navy guys that can literally navigate by the stars, but they think they're getting drones confused with stars. Like, come on, guys. Like, no, these are, and that's the thing where, like, I do think the argument of these are people that are trained to be able to, distinguish these types of objects and what have you, and claiming that they're just hallucinating or having all this other stuff go on is extremely disrespectful. I'm going to go ahead and throw the compassion argument out there. It's super disrespectful to our military members to be saying that, especially when the Navy comes out with those videos and is like, yeah, we're declassifying these. We don't know what they are. And then he comes out and goes, oh, well, they're just mistaking it for a jet. And then even Kirkpatrick is repeating Mick West's debunk on TV and in editorials, right? He literally is repeating it, going, well, it might have just been a jet flying away. Dude, we're not looking at a jet flying away, man. Like, we've seen enough jets to know that they're not going to have like 2 different shaped circles and rotate at a different amount when you rotate the camera. Like, it's just, it's so lazy. And that's what upsets me about a lot of it. Is like, I would consider myself somewhat skeptical of stuff. I don't just buy into every single video I see out there. But we've gotten to the point where it's like the militant skeptics are now just bad faith, just straight up bad faith. Like, developing, like it's a matter of in their minds nothing can be real, and they start from that initial argument, and then they look for something, or even if they have to fabricate something to convince themselves. And that's what I think it makes it. I mean, how do we get past that, right? What would it actually take to really convince people? I think that unless they land right in front of us, I don't know. Go ahead.
I mean, where's the 23-minute video that Elizondo's supposed to have seen? You know, where are all these videos? I think a lot of it, Ashton, is that like the community is just really pissed, bro. It's been so long. It's been so many years that we've been promised things. And you have all these people that come in and bring in like charlatans, bring in fake David Wilcock, Corey Good. The list goes on and on and on, dude. And over time, like everybody has their breaking point. And they're going to get to the point where they'll just start to kind of shoot at everything that moves. And I think that's what happens with a lot of these ultra skeptics that are out there. And to be honest, dude, I can't blame them. I understand. That's why I don't try to smash anybody about any of their beliefs on this stuff. I let people kind of believe whatever they want, because that frustration is real, dude. And at some point, and I think you're noticing this right now, is that the rest of the year doesn't look great. If we really want to get to brass tacks, if we don't want to sugarcoat anything, Ashton, okay, what are we really looking at going forward? Okay, this is my opinion. Not much. I think the arrow is probably going to keep dunking, unfortunately, and these whistleblowers are just nowhere to be found because I don't see what's holding them back now. And if the rumors are true that Grush has had an email exchange back and forth already with Kirkpatrick, and Kirkpatrick said, hey, dude, you can tell me about any program you want, come talk to me, and Grush doesn't go, dude, that looks horrible for him. And so a lot of these people are just, once again, to kind of full circle this, they're just not coming up with the goods, dude. And how long can they not do that before everybody starts throwing their hands up?
Can I throw a spanner in the works?
Yeah.
So if we look at the thumbnail in the O, NASA.
Yeah.
Last year with the UAP thing. For a long time, I mean, people struggle to trust NASA, but we're getting some channels saying, look, NASA is saying this doesn't exist. So you can sure as shit trust that, you know. These guys know what they're talking about. Do you really think they would tell us?
No, dude. NASA's already contaminated anyway with the liaison between them and Arrow. I threw them out the second I heard that.
So this brings me to Kirkpatrick, and I know he's had some hate from the community, and I'm not about that, but I'm sorry to say, it seems like whatever this guy has it seems like he's doing his job and he's doing it well. And I don't think anybody in the community should shit on him for that, because that's his job. That's his mission. Just like Fravor had a job to fly that plane and intercept that Tic Tac. People have jobs to do. It doesn't mean to say they're bad people. For all we know, whatever Kirkpatrick's doing at Arrow could be, in his eyes, exactly what he needs to do for his people.
I think that's likely, Ali. Yeah.
I don't trust NASA at all. I think that anyone wearing a NASA shirt at this point, you might as well just have like a "I'm with stupid" shirt on or whatever. I mean, it's I'm just over it. I think that it's just virtue signaling bullshit at this point. And this was even before I woke up from all this. Back when I was still full CNN brain, back in like 2008 with Curiosity rover, I remember reading articles that I've looked for, I can't find anymore, where, you know, people were supposedly claiming that the DOD had like a back door into the Curiosity rover and could get images back faster than light from the rover itself, so that they, if anything showed up on any images that wasn't supposed to get seen, that they could just hide it from the public, right? And it also made me wonder why the Curiosity rover itself, all the pictures weren't just made available immediately in real time with the raw files, right? As opposed to everything, like they were actually literally airbrushing stuff with red filters.
That's how Alien Addict started, Ashton. I used to do videos on Mars, and
that's not transparent, right? That's the opposite of transparency.
Absolutely.
And that's where I immediately started questioning them. And then my next thing was like, I thought we were going to send this rover to Mars. I thought they were going to find life out there, bacterial life or whatever, right? And then next thing I'm realizing, like, we're zapping rocks with lasers, but the rover's not even built to look for life on the planet. I'm going, wait, but we sent like these other little probes there back in the 70s, and they found organics, right? This is the 70s, and now it's 2008, and we're not even looking. And I'm sitting here going, how does this add up? It doesn't add up at all. And we'd already seen from using like telescopes and stuff, there was seasonal methane on Mars, which is like a pretty strong indicator of life on a non-geoactive planet, right? We're not even looking. We're still not looking. It's 2024. We're still not looking, right?
I don't know if you know this, but Perseverance, the new rover that's on there, the little helicopter, it doesn't even have a forward-facing camera.
Like, why? Why not? Is that too advanced? That technology of cameras?
It's not in the $50 billion budget.
It just it doesn't add up, right?
This is the thing with NASA. This is the thing with NASA. They're given the illusion that we're getting progressive with technology. I was like, hold on a minute. We're still using rockets. You're still, we're given the illusion we're progressing, but we're not. We're just going through like a cycle. Do you know what I mean?
Did you see that picture, Nick, from what was it? SpaceX, where it showed that rocket and Elon was like, "Oh, multi-planetary, like coming soon," kind of a thing. And I was like, "Dude, with that thing, like this is a joke. Like, why are we even posting pictures like that?" Yeah, I mean, the technology is there, man. It's just whether or not we're ever going to get our hands on it, or even if NASA could ever get their hands on it, which I doubt it. They might not really know. Who knows, dude? It's such a mess right now. It's crazy.
No, I think a lot of NASA employees don't even know. Honestly, that's the only way it makes sense, right? Is like maybe like the director knows of the bullshit, but the other people are just like they're not privy to any of it either, right? They're seeing the same information that we get, right? If it's getting intercepted by the DoD before it even gets back to Earth, then it's very possible, and that's why I think the Gary McKinnon leak was really interesting, right? Where he hacks in and he's going, no, they're airbrushing stuff out. I've seen the pictures and stuff. I actually believe that, honestly. I mean, it makes sense to me because no other story makes sense, right? This is the thing that I try to tell people, and this goes back. This is a message to the debunkers and the believers alike. Is I think that people should learn how to play poker, and the reason isn't because I think gambling's good. It's because in poker, it's all about telling a story, right? When you're in there, when you're in a hand, you're trying to understand what's the story of the other person. Like, what would they have started with, and to make sense based on their bets. And then as the cards develop and the board develops, you try to figure out, okay, the path of the different stories that could make sense get narrower and narrower. And that's like what a good poker player does. They're able to figure out what the story is, and that's how they're able to figure out what your hand is. That's what we need in the UFO community as well. We need to sit there and we need to going, what's the story? I don't want a debunk of, oh, this picture matches, this image matches, this is a bird. That's not a story. That's just literally saying, here's a prosaic thing that looks similar. I'm just going to dismiss everything that you have to say, right? And it should be on both sides, not just on the debunker side. The debunker should come up with, okay, this guy misread this because he had too much to drink and he was out there that night and he was looking through his telescope and he saw a star and he thought it was a drone, and you got to give me an explanation for why that all happened, right? And then on the believer side, same thing. Like, oh, I'm claiming this person was abducted. Okay, well, what was the story behind the abduction? Why were they being abducted? Where exactly were they being abducted from? What was the purpose? Well, what were they trying to get out of it, etc.
This, Ashton, I love what you put up with this scar on Mars. Because I've asked myself that same question so many times. What actually happened that? I mean, was it a planet or something that collided with it? It's absolutely massive.
It's huge, right?
Yeah.
I would say this, that absolutely proves there was once water on Mars, and a lot of it. 100%.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, right? It's like, can water explain that though? Like, that is huge. Like, I'm not sure, even if we on Earth, I don't think we have anything like this. People are saying it's deeper than the Mariana Trench, right? Like, wow. And that's where we think like the faults are like meeting, right? And then you've got this submersion thing happening with the fault. And I'm going, well, hell, Mars is much smaller than Earth. So how are we getting stuff like that? And I think it's what Olympus Mons is the other one, right? The biggest mountain in the entire solar system is on Mars. Like, how are we getting these crazy things? I don't have an explanation for that at all, for that scar. Other than you can see there's like water or like valleys or whatever there for sure, but is it fully because of water? No idea.
Do you ever see the Sphinx head on Mars, the face on Mars? Do you think that was just like pareidolia, or do you think that's like?
I don't know on that one either. I watched the Y-Files episode about it where supposedly they like added like more layers to make it less.
It's changed over
obvious.
time. Now it just
weird.
looks like a rock.
I don't trust NASA at all when they're doing if they're putting like weird filters or edits on it. Like, man, I don't know. Because the thing is, like, if there were other civilizations out there, even on Mars, even if it was billions of years ago, right, there might still be stuff that's eroded, you know? One of the things when I looked into like Graham Hancock and a lot of the ancient archaeology stuff that repeats in human history is mounds. Is that humans created mounds everywhere. They even found mounds in America that they're like 5,000 years old. And people didn't even recognize it at first because it looks like a hill. But then you're like, wait, this isn't a natural hill. This is like something people made. And it's just erosion has now kind of made it more flat, right? And I look at the face on Mars and I think the same thing. I think, could there have been potentially like buildings or civilizations or something out there? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Well, Nick's good friends with Graham Hancock, so true story. He actually is.
I am.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Put in a good word for me.
Well, I haven't spoken to him in a while. I think he's moved house, but as soon as he gets in contact, you'll be the first one, and obviously Ollie as well.
We've been asking for an interview for ages, Nick. Come on.
I know. I haven't seen him in over a year, mate. I know he's a bit private. He's got my number and all that, but interesting stuff, man. Very interesting stuff, especially when it comes with advanced civilization, especially on Earth. I think, like, for instance, the pyramids, I know Graham Hancock talks about it. I reckon that's a lot older. I reckon we're talking about hundreds, thousands of years. It's such a complex building to have. We can't build that these days, especially like moving rocks. I'm not saying it's aliens or, anything like that, but we have no idea how the hell they managed it. It requires mathematics to build this thing. I reckon it's some sort of energy weapon, which goes back to like probably 100,000 years, possibly a million years. That thing is earthquake proof. But out of all the disasters it's gone through, that thing is still standing. Impressive stuff.
Will you look at some of the? Have you seen some of the theories of how they did the pyramids and some of those cuts through the rock where they think they did it with some sort of laser and they created the heat? And then you look at that big scar on Mars and think, was that one big giant freaking laser? Probably not. It's probably, but it does make you think.
I think more like large impact, kind of like what Matt was saying. I think is if I had to throw something out there on the scar on Mars, like some giant thing crashes into it and starts ripping through the planet, but maybe it's just plate tectonics. I don't know. And with respect to the pyramids,
terrifying.
Yeah, it's super terrifying. That really is.
An asteroid that big? Yeah, that's terrifying.
Yeah. That's game over.
That's like Apophis coming down, and maybe even bigger than Apophis in 2029. But
looks like Mars got really lucky, actually.
Yeah.
How do we
pyramid thing? That was bizarre. Sorry, go ahead.
How do we fix it? How do we fix ufology at the moment? What's
evidence?
What could we no, we'll forget the evidence. No, I agree. Yeah, but
evidence
could be AI. Evidence could be AI now. Let's face it. We
could be
anything could come out. You just look at MH370 and what they did with the clouds. AI, you can do anything with it.
No, for sure.
Yeah, at this point going forward, it's I think almost impossible, and that's why I would challenge like evidence is okay. What evidence, right? Like what evidence would convince you guys? Like for me, and this is like I still post some kind of weird videos and stuff that I see, but I'm not really getting invested into any video unless I've got two different angles and they're coming from like military assets that are like really high quality, right? I don't want to see any little dots moving around. I want to see like the heat signatures and the orbs in the MH370 video. Like that's what I need to be looking at. Where I'm going, okay, what is going on there, right?
Yeah, I mean, you need the chain of custody on the videos too. That's really big, man. If you can get that, then you can trace them back and you can help with that. But I know Adobe is working on ways right now to actually pull out and see that if these videos are edited or not. So, I mean, there is like on the way, and they've been working on that for, I think, 3 or 4 years now. So there's processes that are coming out. So maybe we'll have a little bit of chance to see if things are doctored a little bit better than we think, hopefully. But yeah, like if you get a 23-minute video, like Lou talks about, get a chain of custody, that would help, man. Evidence definitely would help.
I think AI reversal will be dangerous for the elites. I don't know if they'll let that happen.
But
they'll probably manipulate it, right?
Yeah, I mean, but isn't that the interesting thing right now? And I don't mean to like pull us off this topic, but it's a good example of like when one section of technology is being worked on, the anti is like kind of always at the same time on the other side. They're working on it too, right? And I know we've seen like a lot of these drone reports, these swarms and swarms of drones, and we're acting like, oh, we don't know what these drones are and all of that. I just feel like we've been creating incredible technology. We do have probably insane drones. I think the Tic Tac is ours. I think we do have that stuff from reverse technology for sure. But don't you think that they would have an answer for that already? Like they're working on that stuff at the exact same time. They're across the hallway for sure, right?
Yeah, it's like the Google AI where everybody was coming back African American, right? They're just going to manipulate the AI tool. So they're going to be like, oh, reverse engineer it. Oh, it turns out that was the Pyromania VFX. Oh, that one's seagulls. Sorry, it was seagulls and balloons and people with, skydivers with fireworks coming out of the back of them. Like every response is going to come back like that. And people are going to go, wait, what? But yeah, I think the 23-minute video thing, like I want to touch on that as well more, right? Because I think that one thing that's doing damage to the community more than anything else is people making stories without any corroboration, right? I don't think that people like Lou Elizondo, who people are looking up to, I mean, he's got a whole cultist fan club on Twitter, right? I don't think he should be coming out going, well, I've got a 23-minute video that I've seen that I can't show you and I can't tell you any specific details about, and doing like 5 different podcasts I've seen where he talks about it, right? And I don't think Ross Coulthart should be going out there saying, watch Trump, or saying like, oh, I know where I have a source that I can't.
He's not even an American.
yeah, he's not even American. But he definitely shouldn't be going out there going, and I have a source that I can't tell you about that told me there's a buried UFO somewhere and you should go and don't look around on Google Earth for it. But it's, I'm kind of paraphrasing a little bit. Maybe I'm not being genuine towards his comments, but I don't think they should be making any claims like that, right? Because that's the type of stuff where now people aren't going to take them seriously anymore. It's like boy who cried wolf, right? Like pick your battles there. Make sure you come up with evidence. And then to Matt's point, we need people, like, let's just assume for a second the MH370 videos are real. Even if they are, look at how much of an uphill battle it is. We would need like Edward Lynn to come out and be like, I'm the one who recorded those or disseminated them. And even then, like if he comes out and says, these are the videos I disseminated, I'm still not 100% convinced people will believe it, right? People are still going to find a vector of attack, right? And that to discredit him, to discredit the videos, they might claim that he tried to make them. They might try to claim that it's a foreign adversary, psyop, whatever, right? Like we've seen so many different things that people can come up with. So that's the part where, again, it's kind of black pill a little bit, but to Matt's point, that's what we have to have happen, right? And what's going to happen? That person's going to get arrested. Like they're 100% going to get arrested because that's going to break their NDA.
Yeah, I mean, Ashton, I agree with you, dude. But I'll also mention this to kind of add on to that. I don't see how you can really want to know exactly what's going on, the real truth in this topic right now, and not be in the middle, dude. I don't see it because both sides are just screwing things around so much. Do you see what I'm saying? Like you have to be in the middle right now. It's difficult. Like I believe in the phenomena. I think there's something going on, right? But I don't really believe Lou Elizondo. But I don't really believe Kirkpatrick either. So I'm kind of in working this area, but I do think there are some things that Arrow said are true when it comes to like OSAP, ATIP, and possibly Kona Blue. Dude, so I'm like all over, but you have to like navigate. It's really weird. So most people, I think, hear me talk sometimes and they're like, I can't keep up with this guy. Where are you? And like, why aren't you? I thought you were this side. Now you're this side. Dude, I'm no side. I'm trying to weave in between the cones here on the driving test and not run them over to figure out really where things are. And you have to be that way, I think, right now, if you really want to figure out what's going on.
Oh, I'm the same way. Honestly.
It makes it so hard, bro. It makes it so hard.
And I mean, for me, it's like, I don't know, it's slightly different because like I've got my own sources now that I can't talk about, but that help me to think that, this stuff is real. And I mean, you can see the podcasts that I've done if you want to come to your own conclusions with people out there who aren't familiar. But I'm absolutely certain that we've got some crazy advanced technology. But even knowing that, like, I don't know what the nature of the phenomenon is, right? And so I'm still in the middle of it. That's why, like, I wouldn't say that I closely follow Green Street, but I want to see what he's saying about people in general, because I don't fully trust or believe these people telling stories. But I'm also no fan of Mick West and lazy debunks, right? So, there's some path in the middle. Like I keep saying that I think there's a narrative that kind of brings us all together. There's definitely a certain aspect of disinformation, but I don't think it's as covert as people are thinking it is, where people are like on the payroll directly. I think it would be more of an indirect thing, and that, you know, the CIA is just manipulating the human condition. You know, people want to argue, people want to have sides, people want to be tribal about everything, right?
I know.
And that's what happens. And then
It
people
is,
ignore
it
people
is.
they aren't on their side, you know. That's just what happens.
Yeah, and that makes it difficult to really get to the truth. But I think a lot of people get caught up on the word extraterrestrial way too much nowadays too. I mean, if Arrow wants to bury that word in the ground, let them have it, dude. The reality of what we're seeing, especially with AI, the advancement that's going on right now, the odds that it's AI coming back in time or creating these crafts for us is way higher than it's ever been, and it's leaning way more away from extraterrestrial. It's definitely leaning more even towards crypto terrestrial. If you look at the stuff from Graham Hancock's, what he's talking about, you know, when you look at Göbekli Tepe and how they buried their structures, there's evidence that they filled them in. It's wild to think what happened 12, 13, 14,000 years ago, whether or not you had something like Atlantis and you had some kind of breakaway civilization that was able to maybe go underwater and figure that out. So it's a mess, dude. But like, we need to not get hung up on just the phenomena being one thing. I think we're learning that it might be either multiple or definitely maybe even something completely different than from somewhere else.
Smoking Dog Man, fight me over it. I'm all in on Smoking Dog Man, crypto terrestrial. I don't even know what it means, but I love it.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. Would you say, guys, these debunks that's been quite popular recently, do you think it's just like a trend at the moment? Do you think it's just like a trend that people are going through because it gets clicks, it gets views, so we must shit on this thing because, you know, it's because it's got the word extraterrestrial in it? Or it sounds a bit redundant, it's a bit like Disclosure. It was said so much last year in 2023. It's just like, oh god, like put that back in the closet.
Well, I think it's kind of like you know, every action has an equal and opposite reaction, right?
Stole it from my brain, dude. Get out of my brain, bro. Get out of my head, dude. I was gonna say that.
I was thinking the same thing. No, but that's what it is. But you know, I keep thinking weirdly. I hate giving too much credit to Mick West, but I keep thinking about the letter that he wrote an article about the MH370 videos in Skeptical Inquirer like a few weeks ago, and he kind of gave the game away. He said that when things get too popular, that's when he felt like he had to jump in. I've got him on record like 3 different times saying he wouldn't even address the videos because he thought they were so fake. And he just keeps jumping in. He said that it got too popular. He had to do it. And you know what? He wrote this down. I couldn't believe it, but said that if people believe that this is possible, then people will believe other conspiracies like the election being stolen and QAnon, right? This is the mindset of a lot of these people, is the savior complex. It's this, and not just a savior complex that they've got to protect other people from the dangerous thoughts, but I think it's a protection mechanism for themselves, because if it ends up being real, then they are going to start believing other different conspiracies can be possible. And I think those are the real reasons, right? It's sort of like a fear-based reaction.
What surprises me?
Oh, go ahead, Ali. Yeah.
I was just going to say, what surprises me is, well, it doesn't surprise me, but this is what I think. Mick West would be frightened. Well, not frightened, that's the wrong word. He would be nervous about an interview with you, but you wouldn't be nervous about an interview with Mick West.
No, yeah, and he's dodged me, and there's one that I didn't even bring up, but it's at least 4 now that he's dodged where people
would you debate him?
Yeah, I've already said it that I would do it to many people. I mean, several podcasters have reached out to me behind the scenes and tried to set it up because it would be a lot of views. You know, I think that people would want to watch that.
So there you go. You've heard it. Ashton Forbes, his channel's in the description, people. Let's make it happen. Let's get Mick West on Ashton Forbes' channel.
No offense to him, but I would absolutely just destroy him. I mean, it's you know, the problem is that like when you have these surface level arguments, right? He's going to go and put out his argument out there, and then it's just going to become nope, I don't agree that whatever, and I'm going to present evidence, and he's just going to ignore it, you know. And that's the reason why he doesn't do those kind of back and forth with people in general. Now, with respect to the gimbal, I think he did do one there, and that's because he had made this whole diorama and what have you, but I watched parts of that. It didn't seem very productive in general. And the evidence that I've got is much deeper than that. So, yeah, I know I would be happy to talk to him or anyone else. I've been begging people, especially on the skeptical side, to look at the evidence. They absolutely refuse. They just come up with their own line of attack, right? And then they stick with that. I don't really look at Reddit anymore, but the subreddit related to the videos kind of died off. But I did see a post on there like a week or so ago where someone's listing off these supposed things that are against the videos. and they never address anything that I've brought up. And most of the things are just imaginary stuff that don't really have any water, that have all themselves been debunked, rebunked, however you want to look at it.
I think it's pretty pointless at this point interviewing skeptics, because you're never going to change their mind. They're down one avenue and it's just going to end up in an argument. It's going to be no, because of this, because of that. And it's like, hold on, let's just look at the evidence and explain. And you explain things very well, Ashton. That's one thing I applaud about with all your work you do. You explain it so well, but to a skeptic, it's like, no, it's all wacky-backy, it's all, conspiracy theory, far right stuff. And it's just like, okay, you might as well fuck these people off. Honestly, I think it's a waste of time, in my own personal opinion. I can name a few people, but
well, yeah, so that's why I went on like Lou Reviews, right? I posted that whole video because I wanted to show people what it's like when you talk to these people firsthand, right? And next thing you know, he's talking about quantum computers not being real, and we dug into the politics side of it, and it just goes to show that there's not gonna be productive arguments or on the space.
Quantum computers are real.
Yeah, he didn't think they were real, and I'm sitting there like, well, okay, man, like you want to go down that path, go nuts, right? But it's also stuff where like then he's like, oh well, if you think this science can be real, then write a scientific paper about it, right? And it's like those kind of arguments, which are like just kind of bad faith as well. It's like they're out there, right? Like so actually, this is a good segue real quick into the Salvatore Pais patents. Jake Chansley brought these up on his Tucker Carlson interview, and he didn't have all the details right, and people have been trying to, split hairs over it. Oh, Trump didn't personally declassify them, or it wasn't 2020, it was like 2018 or 2019 when the patents were approved or whatever. But, end of the day, like it did happen under the Trump administration. And I think the big question there is, why did those patents ever get out, right? Like, you've got the piezoelectric superconductive patent, you've got high frequency gravitational wave generator, and then you've got your inertial mass reduction for a transmedium craft, right? You just think about what those words mean, right? And that is some crazy advanced technology if that stuff's real. And Ross Coulthart has claimed that, this might be, disinformation to get our enemies to look down a path that won't work out, which is that's absurd to me, like completely absurd. Like, okay, if it doesn't work, China's going to figure out it doesn't work in 5 seconds. But if it does work, then you've just given away the game, right? So, what if it was like a fake thing? You just wouldn't let it go out there. Like, there's no benefit to putting it out there, right? But I think that's the vector of attack on this. Is like, you guys know that I'm all about the technology side, and I think that's the way to disclosure. But pushing those patents, I think, is a good, I guess I'm going to say propaganda or information war mechanism, because it forces people to look at those patents and think, could these really be real? And if you look at those patents and you just combine them together, you've got yourself a floating UFO that can defy gravity, right? And so that's why I love that he brought it up to Tucker Carlson. I think I plan to bring them up on every other interview that I do, however many that might be. Because I think that's something that resonates with people, where it's not about aliens. It's not even technically about the crafts. It's about the science and the technology and the patents that are out there, and they've been approved, that do exist, whether or not you want to think they're disinformation or not.
I'll tell you what's really mad. Lee shared Jake Chansley interview on his Facebook account a few weeks ago. His Facebook account today got deleted.
Oh, did it really?
Yes.
Really?
His entire Facebook's gone, and his Instagram because of sharing. No, he shared it on Instagram, and his Facebook account's gone, and his Instagram, because I tried to call him today, and I'm like, has Lee blocked me on Facebook? And I'm like looking at his Facebook, and his Facebook's just gone. He's been completely wiped out, and it's because of that. It's because the alien had an interview with Q Sharman.
They're doing a favor.
Sharman, should I say? Yeah, Facebook can go. Yeah, sorry.
Before I came out, I deleted all my Facebook. I was like, nah, we're not doing this. Facebook, you're gone. I didn't want it anyway. So like,
he's not going to be able to talk to anybody's grandmas anymore. Yeah. Too bad.
Yeah. Zuck, you suck.
No, Ashton, I agree, man. I think that looking for the technology and trying to understand that is great, dude. I think that is the option if you know what you're doing with that, for sure. If you got a degree or if you got some time to invest in that and figure that out, you can't hate on that, dude. There's no way. It's kind of like what Alien Scientist is doing right now. That's really great stuff. It's like, for me though, it's like someone who's just gonna be on the outside more, spectate, commentate. That's all that we can really do. And to be honest, that's 99.999% of the whole community. I mean, there's like 0.1% of people that can actually legitimately fight for disclosure through creating the technology themselves on the outside. I don't say that to disencourage. I just say, like,
No, you're right.
that's why I don't think you get that perspective that backs you as much on that, because most people think, it's just so far away. There's a couple of people. What are we going to do? And it doesn't really get the exposure that it really should get. Alien scientists should get way more exposure than he does. Like, there's no arguing that. So, I mean, yeah, that's just kind of my take on where you're going with that. But yeah, I agree that technology is important to have. Yeah, it's important to look at.
I was talking to Tim Ventura about that as well. Actually, I think I've made contacts with a lot of these people now that are kind of either in alien scientist kind of sphere or other spheres as well. One thing was surprising that I got way less pushback on the science than I was expecting from the beginning. I thought at the beginning there would be scientists just jumping on me going, no, this isn't how it works, right? But it didn't end up being like any of that, like at all. Even on the podcast that I did, like that was the part where nobody pushes back. And I think it's because, like you mentioned, 99.99% of the people don't have the basis to even push back on it.
Right.
Now, to play devil's advocate for you, what I would say is that, first of all, I think that you sell yourself short a little bit. I think that anybody can figure it out. It does seem daunting at first, right? But it's just a matter of understanding. And these are things I go back to all the time, is that there's an extra dimension to our space and time that we don't perceive, right? That there's an underlying framework, and that space isn't empty. And when you understand those two concepts, I think that a lot of the other stuff, like the Salvatore Pais patents, begin to make sense. It starts to make sense how we could achieve superluminal speeds. And it starts to make sense how over unity could be possible. And then when you start to read some of the papers and just use like AI to look up what some of the words mean, like I think it starts to build up. And at some point you get to a point where you're like, oh, wow, it's starting to click now. Right. And that's why I wish more people did that, because the kind of, to cap off and land my plane on this, is that I think that when you start to understand the science, just like I've kind of done, you start to realize, oh, wow, some of this stuff is real, and it helps you to distinguish what it can be real or not. Like, people send me these videos of a lot of different portal stuff, and I can kind of tell right away if something's just straight up CGI. Like, they have one where it's like this portal opens up and this craft kind of like just flies through it. And I'm like, okay, that's clearly CGI, because that's not really what it looks like in the real world when you look at the science, right? It's not like an actual Stargate, it's more like what we saw in the MH370 videos, where it's just like this cold event and then it's just not there anymore. Right. And so I just think that's where, like, I think everybody should try to get as much rudimentary science under their belt as they can to help distinguish between, kind of like you're saying, like, how do you tell if something's bullshit or not bullshit?
Yeah. You're muted, Ollie.
Mick West blew up the Nord Stream pipeline. Is that what that says?
Yeah, so who did it? Putin goes, of course you.
This is actually a really, really important point that I don't think we can talk about enough, which is the Tucker Carlson Putin interview. It's not, I don't need the 500,000 years or whatever of, Russian history, although sure, that was great that he could do that. But the part where he's like, if everybody knows the United States blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, right? It was to damage Russia, to damage their supply lines. And the media tried to play it off like, well, maybe Russia did it to themselves. And like, like, come on, man. And then so Tucker kind of asks him, like, if you knew that America did that, why not take a propaganda victory there and promote it and blast it, right? And he comes back and he goes, well, it's not cost effective to battle the United States on the propaganda front, right? It's that they control all the Western media, and the European media has also got heavy ties to United States financial institutions and vice versa. And that's when you realize, wow, we control the perception of what the world thinks is true and not true. It's not Russia, right? And Russia, of course, has propaganda capabilities. So does China. That's why China has their own firewall, and they try to keep the information that gets to their people very secure, right? But I think we have to realize that the United States propaganda is extremely powerful, the most powerful on the planet. And that kind of ties back to our UFO stuff, right? Because if there's something that leaks out there, they're going to find a way to spin it or twist it or cast enough doubt on it that the community just fights themselves over it, whether it be mummies, leaked videos, crash retrievals, whatever.
I mean, to kind of go back to the thumbnail, Ollie, I mean, what do you think? I mean, when you look at this whole idea of a psyop. Is it possible that since 2017, TTSA, everything was because we got a hint that maybe China or Russia made a breakthrough around that time, and we got to try to figure out what's going on? We wanted more people to talk about it. You think that's possible?
I don't think China has anything to do with it.
Really? You don't think so? Oh, you mean just like objects or like the TSA, whatever TTSA?
Your country, I don't think. In terms of yours two country, I don't think they give a shit. I would say that there may be elites that even your countries do not know about that are working together. So I think that there is something. I do believe in elites, and I do think there is something going on where it doesn't matter about the country. It is basically the planet as a whole. But the people in power behind the country, like your Slow Joe, whatever they call him, and
Sleepy Joe.
Sleepy Joe, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Ice Cream Joe.
Yeah.
I just don't think I think they're clueless. I do generally think they are completely clueless.
Well, so here's what I will say, guys. Like, I'm going to do the trust me, bro thing here, but I know beyond any shadow of a doubt that the elites, the politicians, the rich people, they know about advanced technology that we plebs don't know. Now, I'm not saying that they've got their own orbs flying around.
Does Joe Biden, though, Ashton?
Oh, I think he definitely does. Yeah, he's corrupt as hell too. So does he remember? Yeah, exactly. Does he remember? No, probably not. Yeah, I don't know if he remembers his own birthday at this point.
Dude, they're guiding him into doors and stuff. It's
the people that handle him and the other politicians, they 1000% know about. They know there's stuff out there that's way more advanced. They even buy some of it, right? Stuff that we would think isn't possible. And I know because I've seen like strong evidence, so straight up evidence that would convince you guys as well, pictures of people together, etc. But the thing that I wanted to challenge you on there, though, is that I do think that some of this is happening because Russia and China have figured it out now, right? Because here's the thing that I tell people is that the technology that is required to make a craft float suspended in our magnetosphere, ionosphere, or whatever, that's not an invention. That's a discovery. And it's important to distinguish between the two. Inventions can be, you can wipe somebody out that's going to invent something, right? And then maybe they'll never be invented. Discoveries are always going to be found out. It's just a matter of how long you can suppress it for, right? Now, if we just hypothetically assume the MH370 videos are real for a second, that was 2014. That was 10 years ago, right? If those are real and some random guy who was unknown 6 months ago was, able to figure out what that technology is and how it's working and having all these engineers talking to me, then Russia and China's intelligence community figured that out too. And they probably have better stuff than those videos, right? They've probably hacked the United States and found some of the 23-minute UFO video and whatever else might be out there, right? So to me, I think the scary part is how long can you keep Russia and China suppressed from essentially God tier technology? And once they get it, then what do you do? Do you still keep it secret from your government, from your people? I think that what's happening is some of these, like the Langley Air Force Base incident from December, like that, then there was just a video that posted like yesterday or 2 days ago. Like, I think that these are like drones is what their code name is for them. And the reason why we're calling them drones is because they are autonomous vehicles that are floating around. But I think that if people were to see them, they would go, that's no drone that I've ever seen. Like, that thing's just suspended in midair. It looks like a balloon, right? But it doesn't have any propulsion. I think that's China and Russia testing out their advanced technology, their anti-gravity technology, and using it for spying purposes. And I think we just use the cover name of drones because the public doesn't think about it.
I see exactly what you're saying there. And I see where you challenged me on that. But I'll come right back at you there and say, what's up there that is going around this earth at a ridiculous speed?
Ripple Moon.
True.
So the ISS.
Oh, okay. ISS.
Yeah. How many people are on the ISS in terms of nations?
I actually don't know. Does anyone know?
3 or 4?
I don't know how many people are actually up there. Maybe nobody up there. That's another conspiracy in itself.
Is space even real? I don't even know at
man.
this point.
Dude, we don't have time for that.
You've got Russia, you've got China, and you've got America, and I think there's a few other, maybe Finland or whatever. But they are working together.
Finland, pretty random. Okay.
I think it's some Nordic person anyway.
The Nordics. Oh no! See, it was
don't get started.
DEI
training for everyone in here.
But you know, they made that like kind of commitment way back when that they would work together in space. They don't work together down here. So that something's going on there. Unless it's not actually there at all. And it is, because you can see it with the telescope going past the moon. Something is definitely there, because I know a guy has a telescope.
Are you sure? Have you checked though?
I have checked. He showed me it. He showed me the ISS going past the moon.
I'll trust you, bro. I'll trust you, bro.
I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. And I'll be honest with you, we've done shows about this, say there's something a little bit screwy with the ISS footage. But that's a whole other show. But what they claim is they get along with Russia, they get along with China, they get along with America, they get along with Britain, they get along with everybody up in the ISS. That is a peaceful zone where anything goes, you know, and there's all the war's gone, everybody's getting on up in space. So is that something completely different? Because we talk about the fact that we don't trust NASA. Well, NASA's put that up there. You know,
taxpayers' money.
Well, what if I told you this? What if I told you that the individuals, because government's made up of individuals, right?
Yes.
That the individuals are communicating with one another, and that everybody is just behind the scenes and little private chats and email chains and what have you, all talking to one another. And that everything we see is just a big show, right? Which is, what are the narratives of this being pushed to the press? What's the press release say, right? If you look at the world from that perspective, it gets a lot darker, right? Because then you're like, wow, everything that is happening is really just a big game, right? And the elites behind the scenes are never killing each other. You know, we're never taking out Putin. Putin's never taken out our leaders. You know, even now, Russia, I think, was saying that if Ukraine is found to have been part of this terrorist attack that happened today, that they would attack their officials in response. But does that ever really even happen? No, it's always just the poor grunts on the front lines who are all the ones wiping out. And then I think the other people are just behind the scenes talking freely to one another, which is even scarier to me, because then it goes this whole idea of the WEF and global government that's, you know, everything else is just kind of an illusion. The borders are an illusion, and it's all just a big scam.
Yeah, you can kind of tell the signs now, because every time I go on like the internet, the news comes up. It's always like, Putin's going to do this, Putin's going to do that. I'm like, hold on, okay, if he would have done it, he would have done it by now. Why is he going to suddenly hold off? You know, it's all these, like you said, Ashton, propaganda. The American propaganda is, God, top tier. And even Putin said that, even admitted that, you know, in Tucker Carlson interview. World War III, and all this nukes are going to happen. It's just, again, propaganda. It's not going to happen, guys. You know, it's just fear porn. That's all it is. That's one thing I've noticed, is keeping the public in fear. They need to be in a state of fear. We went through COVID, then it was Ukraine, then it was Palestine. Now it's World War III with Putin. It's just one crisis after another, keeping people in fear. And what best way to keep people in fear than war? Let's face it.
No, and they're really good at it, right? In terms of demonizing people, like really, really good at it. And I think what you said is the thing that I've also independently, just not related to anything else, just always determined, is that if Putin was going to do something, he was going to do it. We've been hearing that Putin's the bad devil person for 10 years straight, and that he's going to attack us and do all this stuff that he never does, right? This is the same stuff they did to Trump. And I'm not a big Trump supporter or fan in general, although I might find myself voting for him. I don't know. But he was supposed to turn the whole country fascist and take over, and, you know, and not secede rule and all this stuff that never ends up coming to fruition. They did the same thing to Elon Musk. They turned people that loved Elon Musk into hating him just because he bought Twitter, right? And like,
they're still on X though. They're still on X, even though they hate him.
Oh yeah, and that's the thing too, and that shows how dishonest it is, right? How many people said they were going to leave X and go to, what were they, Blue Sky, or what was the other one? I don't even remember the names of them. Mastodon, right? And they never leave, right? And it just goes to show how bad faith everything is, right? But it goes to show how effective it is, because even now, if you bring people up, like even I'm kind of now like just go ahead and letting my opinions flow at this point. But if I say something that's, supportive of Russia, I've got a decent percentage of people, like 10, 20% of my followers that are like, oh, I thought you were better than this. He's a terrible person, blah, blah, blah. Or if I praise Mike Flynn, General Flynn, same thing happens. And I ask people like, what did General Flynn do? Oh, he's a traitor. Okay, but what did he do though? And they're like, no, TV told me he was a traitor, right? And it's like, this is the stuff I want to break down, which is these perceptions that people have as opposed to what's the reality situation. This feeds into the UFO community too, right?
You're talking about the pilot there, aren't you, Ashton? Just for the audience, the pilot,
Flynn? General Flynn. No, so General Flynn, the story behind him, I actually had to ask a podcaster that I went on recently because I couldn't even remember. But so he got indicted for lying to the FBI about something related to his son. And the narrative that was spun was that he was a Russian traitor, that he was selling secrets to Russia or something like that. This guy was literally the director of the Defense Intelligence Agency, right? And he was an advisor to Trump. And this is why everybody hated him, because he was an advisor to Trump. He was in the Trump campaign. Trump ended up pardoning him. But now, if I were to ask my parents, who are full CNN brain, they would say, he's a traitor. He's the worst person in the world. They did the same thing to Jake Chansley. I mean, you guys saw that as well. Like, I still defend Jake Chansley to people, and people are vicious about it. There was a guy they clipped on Bill Maher saying that Jake Chansley should be shot. I'm like, what? Dude's completely nonviolent. He's such a nice
guy.
He's such a nice guy. Like, whether or not you agree with what he says or not, like saying that he needs to be shot because he was insurrecting in the Capitol, dude never hurt anybody. Nobody even argues that he was even violent, right? Like, that's the crazy part. Non-violent acts, people want to have people shot over. This is how powerful our propaganda is. Extremely powerful. And this is what we need to remember in the UFO community as well. It makes it very difficult, to Matt's point. How do we distinguish between what's bullshit and what's not? The propaganda is so powerful, right?
Well, it's just the resources that the Pentagon has, dude. Sometimes I go, how do we really think we're going to compete with this? This is such a joke. The mind power they have, the technology that they have. We are literally, this is worse than David and Goliath, dude. I mean, we're showing up with a knife to a gunfight more than ever. We see how that ended in Indiana Jones. That didn't end well for the guy swinging the sword. So,
I love that.
Yeah, dude, it's tough. Yeah, I do too. I love when he just goes bang.
But this is a good conversation, because this is what I think about almost every single day in my free time. Is I've grown this huge following that I never thought I would have in my whole life, right? I've got more followers than a lot of these UFO celebrity people do, or at least pushing that amount, right? And I think, like, how do I fight back on some of this? Like, it's asymmetrical warfare, essentially. It's an information war. It's the sides are not even. Like you said, it's David versus Goliath, right? Yeah. And the way I look at it is like any little thing where I can find like a chink in the armor, right? Any crack in the armor that we can exploit, I'm going to be on it, right? Like, like the Mick West thing. We find this debunk out, or this rebunk out there. That was posted by somebody that actually has me blocked, that hates me. I don't even really like them either, but that doesn't matter to me at all, right? The fact that like they found out that he pulled out this 5 seconds that was super crucial to the argument. Oh, I'm going to hammer that, right? And when we find like crazy stuff, like even, the Mars huge slash, it's like, what actually is that, right? That's a crazy thing out there, And so that may seem just normal or regular, but even highlighting that type of stuff. And the last thing I would say is, like, recently today, I got a little bit of pushback, but not much, for posting videos from the terrorist attack. And also from Israel just blowing up like 5 people walking down a street that were supposedly Hamas terrorists, right? You show people the brutal reality of the world, and it wakes them up. It shocks them, right? And I think that that's kind of what I'm going to do, right? Is show people this stuff, and slowly we'll wake people up one at a time. Sometimes it's going to be, here's some crazy, brutal reality of our world. Other times it might be, here's technology that's out there, science that's out there. And other times it might be pushing back on the debunker people that are, saying, no, this isn't real, blah, blah, blah. I'm going, well, here's some doubt on that too. I don't know, but I'm open to advice. What do you guys think? How do we fight that?
Well, Ashton, have you heard of a name, Philip Klass?
I have not, no.
So we had Steve Pierce and Mike Rogers from the Travis Walton incident on, I think, going back a year ago. We've had Mike Rogers on a few times. He was the you've heard of the Travis Walton incident?
Is that the abduction
Yes,
situation?
like the most we've not though Travis doesn't want anything to do with us. Travis, come on the show. But Mike Rogers was the driver, and there was a big hoo-ha where there was people trying to debunk it, and people had tried to trick part of the 7 people into saying that it was fake, that they had faked it. So we got the guys on the show that, by the way, hated Travis Walton. I say hate. I don't.
Mike wasn't happy.
No, there's people out there that absolutely hate him. No, they definitely do. Yeah.
But his friends that had witnessed him get abducted didn't speak of him highly. However, they stuck to the story. But they spoke about this person called Philip Klass. And I didn't really know, and I still don't know much about this guy. But apparently he was the Mick West of the day.
Yeah.
And what he used to do was, so Mike was telling me that he tried to trick them into saying things and doing things. And this is before the internet. This is just like for newspapers, for small print, not a big deal, not even worldwide news. Just, I mean, I know America's a big place, but American news. How much actual money was in that? Philip Klass would be a real good person to look into, because when you look into our guys now, they can make real money on it. Fair enough. I don't know how much money this guy could make. So who was paying him? What was the reason behind his job? Was it just a hobby? Or was it something a little bit deeper than that?
It's very on brand, right? I mean, that happened even just yesterday. I got a random email, and it was in my personal email. So I was right away like, And it was in kind of broken English, but not like, it was like too broken. Like someone should have tried a little harder, right? And they had this video, and it shows people getting out of a plane actually at Diego Garcia, and it looked like a Malaysian Airlines plane, but it was clearly not a 777. And so right away I'm like, this is weird, right? And I make a post about it, and I end up deleting it like less than 5 minutes later, because I posted in my Discord, so guys, looking at this, something doesn't seem right. And we find out that, somebody took a Diego Garcia video and they like changed the plane to be in a Malaysian Airlines plane. I'm just going like, people are doing what you just mentioned, right? They're like making fake stuff to try to trick you into falling for it, or whatever they can do to discredit you. That is the lowest form of life on this planet. Like, that is the worst kind of trolls. Like, if you're so sociopathic and honestly psychotic that you're trying to do that to try to trick people or whatever, like, you need to reevaluate your life decisions. Like, that is so messed up. And this goes back to like when people literally committed a felony fraud against me because they were so upset, I guess, about the case, making up fake files and all this stuff, right? And again, that just goes to show that like we're in an age now where, sure, being skeptic is fine, but being a debunker is like the next level, where they take it too far, right? Where they're trying to just dishonestly, bad faith, attack you, etc. And I say this as somebody who I don't even believe like abduction stories, just to be honest with you guys. Like, just seems like too much for me to fall into, but I keep an open mind to it. But I think that to your point there about that is like the Mockingbird media. This goes back to what Jake Chancellor says. I think he says some really good things that are great. He says a lot of esoteric stuff that, I don't believe 100%, but he's a shaman and he's kind of connected to nature and stuff like that. But the Mockingbird media thing, 100%, like especially in the old days, the government they have connections to these people. Honestly, Ross Coulthart has connections. There's no doubt. I know he does. Yeah. And it's just a matter of like, how can he even trust what he's being told, right? Like, his connections tell him something's fake or true. It's his friend, he's going to believe it.
Do you think he's in it for the good?
I don't know. I think he probably is, but I don't trust anybody that's on mainstream TV. I don't care what channel it is. If you're getting shown on TV, it's because they trust you to say stuff that's not going to rock the boat, that's not going to push it too far, right? So that's why I trust the people that like are getting fired. Like, and people don't like Tucker Carlson, but dude got fired from Fox News, right? And he was one of the only people that was even talking about the UFO stuff on mainstream television, on mainstream cable, right? He actually talked about it almost like weekly. And, you know, even people like, you know, Candace Owens, I think just separated from Daily Wire today, right? When people are telling the truth, usually like that's the trend that you see, is that they're getting the boot from certain places because they're not towing the party line or saying the right messages that they want to say. So this is where I would tell people to be skeptical. I think in general, the UFO community could benefit from not having as many heroes of disclosure, right? And doing their own work and research into, you know, the things that they think might be real or not.
Or at least being willing to take your heroes and hold their feet to the fire, dude. And that's what doesn't really happen. But I agree though with what you're saying. But I will say this. I think if I can make a prediction for the end of the year, I think that anybody who really has a good head on their shoulders will start to hold people's feet to the fire, though. This stuff has gone on long enough. These 40 whistleblowers. Come on, guys. How much longer are you going to listen to this without getting any evidence, dude? Until you finally go, hey, this is starting to seem kind of weird. Let's get something out there, you know? But always keep in mind, you know, and I'm trying to mention this as much as I can, you know, no matter what you think with OSAP or ATIP, Lou, any of these guys, they're only one part of the story, man. There's still 80 other years that are involved. And there's no point in throwing out the baby with the bathwater here just because there's a little bit of mess going on. You know, keep at it, try to find something that you're interested in with it, and keep focused on the main goal, which is trying to get some more truth out there, you know, but hold people's feet to the fire.
Yeah, one thing I want to add on to that too is that I actually like the Arrow report because now it's kind of put the ball in the court of all those whistleblower people, right? Where it's like, you got to come out and you got to strike back right now, because that was a big, like, whether or not that person, they're lying, Sean Kirkpatrick's lying or whatever, that's a good propaganda move. Honestly, I equate it to like the cloud debunk of the MH370 thing, where I'm going like, this doesn't make any sense to me. I disagree with it, but boy, this is a good play by the intelligence community, by the Pentagon or whatever. Because
excellent play.
Now you force somebody else to push back, right? And like with the cloud debunk thing, it was like, now I got to be like, okay, they used AI to fake this picture, right? And everyone's going to go, oh, he's just conspiracy theorist, right? And now it's kind of the same thing where it's like, now the people that think there's extraterrestrials have got to like come up with some hard evidence, because otherwise they're going to go, no, the government already debunked that. It's all been fake, blah, 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 right?
Well, I agree to even expand on that. This is my thought on the David Morehouse interview with Concrete with Danny. If you like Grush, you should be happy that he did that. He's putting the pressure on him. Grush is going to have to show up, and that you should be happy when people do that, man. That's how you're going to get the truth.
That was an interesting interview, right? Where I mean, he was just called Grush out. Now, I was on Skyfire News where I just kind of pushed back on him though, because like, this dude's a CIA remote viewer that's claiming he's remote viewing Mars and stuff like that. And he's going, well, David Grush doesn't have any hard evidence, can say whatever he wants to say. I'm going, dude, you're just saying whatever you want to say. You're somebody who thinks you have psychic powers, bro. Like,
for sure.
How are you gonna, how are you gonna be a bigger hypocrite than that?
I mean, I agree, dude. I mean, this is why I kind of said you got to be careful with picking sides, man, because you'll end up taking the same bait just from a different fisherman, dude. It's the same bait. Like you take Trust Me Bro over here, then you're like, well, I learned my lesson. Now I'm going to go over here full time. And it's like, now you're just getting Trust Me Bro over there, but now you're saying that that's good. You're taking the Trust Me over here. Come on, man. You got to get your butt in the middle, man, and try to figure out what's going on.
I think they should do a beer called Trust Me Bro.
Or I want a shirt, Trust Me Bro. I love it.
I'm going to do it first.
Oh, one other thing that I think's interesting that I wanted to bring up today with you guys is that one of the things that really caught me off guard about the MH370 videos, and I hate to always bring it back to that, was that the orbs, though. You know, the orbs, all the orbs that we've been seeing and that people show look like they're metallic balls and stuff like that. But in the MH370 videos, it's ball plasma, ball lightning or something, right? It's like a plasma field around it, which is something that kind of caught me off guard, where I'm going, I don't think I've seen this, like not commonly at least, right? But I'm starting to wonder if it doesn't make more sense. Like a lot of the stuff, one of the things that skeptics always say is, why do the UFOs have lights on them, right? And a lot of the stuff that we see is like a light that we see as well, right? Doesn't it make more sense that they don't have lights and then what we're looking at is actually like ball plasma or like ball lightning or something like that, right?
Do you remember that old Eddie Murphy sketch where he's talking about the place and he goes, woo, woo, I'm here. Like they're not going to do that. Yeah. The aliens won't do that, people. The aliens are going to cover themselves up. So I know exactly where you're coming from with that.
What do you other guys think about that? Like, what are your thoughts on it? Like the whole ball lightning or plasma orbs stuff.
I don't know. I mean, the lights on them, it's possible that they could be trying to get our attention slowly over time, though. I think that's still there. I mean, look at me. It's possible. But Grant Cameron talks about that a lot. He does some really interesting stuff on that. But yeah, I don't know. In that video, dude, they kind of look more like Tic Tacs. You know, what do you think about the Tic Tac? Do you think that's why it's the color that it is, the shape that it is? Is that kind of where you're going with that?
Oh, in the MH370 videos, I don't think it's Tic Tac related. I think there's multiple things going on personally. I think some people in the chat were mentioning that too. I think the UFO phenomenon is a little bit more bizarre than we think. Like I'd never seen any of the ball plasma kind of stuff at all before this, but then I met Bob Grenier, talked to him, and you know, he's saying that yes, this is consistent with like magnetic monopoles, and that there might not even be a physical object in there. Like this might just be actual like plasma, like a miniature sun essentially, which is really weird. And I think that's different than a lot of the other stuff. Like I think the Tic Tac was a literal like object, maybe even a craft. I'm not sure, but I would also think that most of the stuff that I think that they see as UFOs is probably like drones, right? Remote controlled objects. The question is, what's the nature of the remote controlling, right? Are they controlling it with something on the ground, or is there some other mechanism?
Well, when you're saying ball plasma, I mean, what do you mean? Like not a physical object? Are you saying that it's natural? I mean, or are you still saying that there's somebody in there? I mean, what do you mean by that?
Definitely nobody in there. I can't decide if I think there's like some smaller object that can create the field around it to create the phenomenon. But Bob Grenier would argue that it's just literal plasma that is just self-sustaining by nature of the magnetic field that it creates around it. And that it could be, in some cases, natural phenomenon, and that we or other non-human intelligence have figured out how to replicate that phenomenon. He argued that it can be transmedium, but that they are self-sustaining, that can last for like several days, just floating around like that.
So that it's
like
a creature, essentially, right? I mean, is it something
that's what I was getting at.
Living being? Is
that's what Joseph P. Farrell says apparently. Yeah. And like when I interviewed Salvatore Pais, I completely ignored it as being too esoteric. My thought was, when I looked at that, was maybe it's like a weapon that you shoot, and now you've got this ball plasma that can float around freely, right? But what if like plasma like that can be sentient, right? What if that's really esoteric? That's what Joseph P. Farrell says, and that's what Salvatore Pais was mentioning in one of my interviews with him, where I was like, is this guy a little too far out there? But now I'm going, maybe he knows about these patents. Maybe there is something weirder out there, right? I don't know. That's why I wanted
technology exists. I was going to say that technology exists. If you remember Foo Fighters, or we briefly talked about it before, new evidence come to light, and this is actually backed up by evidence. Professor Simon Holland did a video on it. What the Germans were doing, they were experimenting with radar systems, and they managed to actually put a ball of light, an ionized plasma ball, into the sky. So essentially, it's like a big laser pointer, and they would use this to sort of detain and sort of analyze the Allied aircraft as they're going. So these balls of lights were more or less like a ionized plasma ball. So it would look like a big ball, like it would ionize with the Earth's atmosphere, basically, or it would sort of use the exhaust systems or like the smoke trail from the actual jet engine itself to actually show these balls. But this is go back to the 1930s. But the British actually took that technology and they, I think, weaponized it to a certain degree. So ionized plasma balls can be traced back to the 1930s. That's only like new evidence that's come to light. Professor Simon Holland did a quite detailed look into it. Or the other option was, which is my avenue, that these were German transmission frequency probes, built to actually down military aircraft. But that's a whole new.
Wait, Professor Simon Holland did a thing on that?
Yeah. I'll tell you what. I'll pull it.
The world is so small, man. Like he's the one who I found the faster than light communication video recently that he did as well, where he says he has a contact that he's like, it's like, no, this is 100% real, and explained it to him. And I went down that rabbit hole, and I'm 1,000% convinced that's real. It's funny that these spheres, like it's such a small world in this community of scientists, engineers, even UFOologists. Like you hear the same names over and over. The Joseph P. Farrell thing creeped me out because I was thinking about the question I asked you about, can it be sentient? And I went back to the video interview I did with Salvatore Pais, and he says, looking at Joseph P. Farrell. And then somebody else sends me a video link from a week after the plane went missing in 2014, where Joseph P. Farrell's going, I think this is somebody trying to send a message, and it could be sending a message to China or Russia, and it could be the United States with a super weapon. And I'm going, what the hell? He's saying exactly what I had discovered, right? And like this, it's just so many weird connections between all these people. I think that there's definitely like a certain group of people like in the know, like how if they know everything, maybe not, but they know like 90% of it, you know?
Ashton, you're blowing my mind here, dude. You just made me think about something. Okay, so non-human biologics. Okay, so if we talk about these orbs, man, if these are maybe some creature or something like that, that is the way it moves, you could actually use that as technology. Maybe these things aren't crashing, maybe they're dying somehow and they're falling out of the sky, and that's what happened in Roswell. Something fell, and they're saying that that's the biologics is the craft. That's why they're saying like the craft is alive kind of idea. Does that make sense at all? Like,
it wouldn't. If you'd asked me a year ago, I'd said you're crazy. But now I'm thinking about it, and I'm just like, man, it kind of makes a little bit of sense that like I don't know if they're necessarily alive, but the whole idea of lightning ball plasma, I don't know. That's the thing where I would say like if there's going to be a revelation that comes out in the next few years, right? I think that would be where this goes, where it's like, okay, yes, there's drones and things floating around, but there might be this weird thing going on with this self-sustaining plasma balls that we're also seeing as UFOs. And maybe we're seeing multiple different things, but yeah.
Maybe Corbell's jellyfish is actually real.
Maybe the jellyfish aliens.
That's the video that's still on the table, man. It's still on the table. You can't throw that video out. If you want to throw it
I agree. I totally agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's still on the table.
Out.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the thought of it. Whatever it is for some reason dying, and it's hitting the ground.
We're just running out of energy. If Bob Greenier's right and it lasts for a couple of days, I don't know. I think the bigger question is just like, can plasma be conscious in general? Like one of the things that I've always thought well before this was if there's going to be life on another planet, like imagine a planet like Jupiter that's a gas giant, right? Or another planet that's gas giant. You know, could there be life that forms that just floats freely? Right.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah.
And it's not like a land-based life that we know of. And why can't something that's like gaseous have consciousness? Right. I mean, it's just states of matter, right? Liquid, solid, gas, and plasma. You know, well, what is holding back something like that from being conscious? Maybe it's just if the nature of the phenomena was that weird, it wouldn't surprise me that they would keep it hidden. You know, I keep trying to look for reasons like, why are they hiding it? It's got to be something weird, dark. I don't know, you know. Anyway, it's fun to think about.
Yeah, it is.
That's a whole new rabbit hole. Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think about it being alive like that. Yeah, it's wild.
It is
a paper recently.
We're approaching the 2-hour mark, and yeah, I could go down these rabbit holes all night long. We are in talks, me, Lee, and Dave, of doing a 24-hour show at some point where we like invite people in on a constant stream. So yeah, we are in talks about that, but that's going to come down the line. What do you, before we pull out of this, what do you boys think the other, forget the community, we love you, and you should stay focused on this subject, but as creators, do you think we have a responsibility with this, or do you think, you know, we just do what we want?
I know I do what I want, but
yeah.
Okay, I'll word that differently. Do you think we can make a difference?
Good question, guys. What do you guys think?
Go ahead, Nick. You go first.
Oh man, this is, everyone's got different opinions. You know, the internet's got a wide range of information. It depends on who you trust. You know, trust me, bros, and all that sort of stuff. Man, who knows? It's so unpredictable. We're at this sort of time now where we're going, but I think the right mind for you, what you said, Matt, was to don't stick with one side, to have your own opinion and have rational thought, and yeah, have a sort of the sort of conspiracy realms, you know, I say conspiracy, but that sort of alternative side. So you've got to keep both doors open when it comes to that. But it depends on who has the right information. But it's good to have channels like this because we're actually having our own opinions. But like the commentators, what's the word I can't pronounce the word properly. Commentators. That's the word.
Commentators.
So
yeah.
Basically, you're spectators of this, conspiracy theory, which is ufology at the end of the day. So it's hard to tell, man. We'll see. It's a very unpredictable time we're living in. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's possible that we could make a difference, man. We just have to see how everything plays out. If the 23-minute video comes out, or we get some kind of leak from a really hardcore whistleblower that comes out and drops evidence, then it's easy to look back and go, yeah, we made that happen. We kept the conversation going and we picked up the torch. It's easy to do that, but it's really hard question to answer because it takes time. It's just time. We'll have to see how it all plays out, but we definitely need conversation. I mean, it will stall out. I mean, that was the whole thing with a lot of the skeptics in the community. I don't want the skeptics to leave, man. We need to have people push back on ideas. If they leave, we're screwed. We're screwed, dude. We don't have the chance to get to the real truth. We can let kind of the prisoners run the prison. You're only going to get one side, and who knows where that's going to lead us.
Yeah, no, I think 100% we can make a difference. I think that even I stand as a proof of that in general, right? 6 months ago, I was not any part of this at all. I've now been on your guys' show 6 times, something like that.
I've lost count.
I've made people think just from the investigation, whether or not it's been debunked or not. I think I've made people think a little bit outside the box. I think that the fact that we're even talking about plasma balls being conscious really is pushing the envelope forward just of that, right? As well as people now thinking about in the back of their minds, can we really move faster than light? Can we teleport an object, right? Because as UFO Shane would say, that could be full disclosure, right? Once you have that kind of capability now, it's not that crazy to think that there could be beings visiting us from Andromeda or wherever else, right? So I think that we can make a difference. I do think we have a responsibility to try to be as honest and forthright as we can. And as I think all of us are kind of like, I would say normal people, right? We're not the UFO celebrities that are on TV or whatever. And I think from that perspective, we should avoid the pitfalls that we criticize them for, right? Telling stories that have no basis, and giving people false hope and that kind of stuff, or selling redacted books and all these other types of things, right? I think we should hold ourselves up to a little bit of a higher standard. That's just my thoughts.
Ashton, if you had any advice for the wannabe debunkers of this world, what could they do differently?
Yeah, I think that they, like I said before, when I told
Matt said they do a good job, and they definitely deserve a place in this, and I agree with that. But what would, for somebody who's being criticized in this community, quite?
Yeah, I think that people should have a more open mind, right? Like, one example is one of the people who was coming at me super hard, attacking me personally, claiming to come after my job. Turns out they believe in remote viewing, right? And I'm just sitting here going, everybody's got their own beliefs, right? And that's fine. We don't need to be trying to personally attack people, trying to call people liars and stuff like that. Like, that's over the line. Like, don't do that at all. Like, if you have that inclination on the internet, just take yourself away from the keyboard, take yourself away from it, right? We need to have productive conversations. There's a very fine line between being a skeptic and then being a militant debunker, right? And I think we need the skeptics. Absolutely. We should all be critical thinkers and skeptical thinkers, right? But we don't need the militant debunker people that are coming out in bad faith, and especially when they themselves are hypocrites. End of the day, I think if anyone comes at it with an open mind, then that's what we need here, because there's a lot of bad faith arguments. There's a lot of stories being told, and we need to cut through it and figure out what's going on with this thing, right?
Yeah, and I've heard you on your show many a times telling your audience to calm down if they've talked about something that's just completely out there beside you. Like, calm down, guys. That's bullshit.
Well, it's like a lot of people try to connect everything together, right? And that's what I think, to give MythQuest a little bit of credit, there is this element of when you fall down the rabbit hole, then you're looking for connections that may not exist between everything. The one that happens with MH370 a lot is trying to link it to MH17, because it was another tragedy that happened like a few months later in June of 2014. So everyone thinks, maybe that plane was the one that, got out there and then they filled it with dead bodies and they crashed it and it was all a big, plan or whatever. And it starts to get very complicated with a lot of that. Or where everybody's trying to, I'm not digging on sacred geometry here, but everyone's trying to figure out how every single thing in the universe links together, right? It's like, we don't need to do all of that. Let's just take it piece by piece, right? And the analogy I give is like build your building from the foundation up, right? And work with the evidence, but don't try to necessarily connect everything that there is out there. It's a hard line to straddle, but it's there.
Well, my biggest advice to the community is go follow my three lovely friends here in the description below. All got plenty to give. I'm sure you know definitely know the guy.
Everybody's gonna do that now.
In the shirt. Ashton, when you gonna come on wearing a vest? I want to see you in a vest.
Oh, in a jacket, I actually have an actual vest, by the way. I have one back there. I could break it out. No, yeah, it's funny because I'm actually thinking about trying to go with the Ross Coulthart look, with the white button down and the jacket. Just look at professional it up a little bit more. I was talking to my parents about it.
Stick with the shirts, mate. Stick with the shirts.
Stick with the shirts, okay.
Yeah, stick with the shirts. Shirts is good. Shirts is good.
Well, you got to have some aura of credibility when you're talking about this kind of stuff, right? Perception does matter a little bit.
So Nick, I'm going to start with you. So when's your next show coming out?
I'm planning to go live tomorrow at some point. I'm not too sure what time, but yeah, I'll keep you all posted. But I'm doing a video on this book, very controversial book that didn't cost me 110 quid from Germany, about the downed. It's called. It's all in German. I can't remember what it's called. It's called Secret Societies: Their Power in the 20th Century. Very controversial book. Talks about the downed UFO in Germany in 1936, where it first originated from. So yeah, I'll be doing a deep dive on that at some point. So it's another book. It's definitely over $1,000. I've calculated everything. No,
you read German?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
God, no. No, I use
got a
Google
book
Translate.
You can't read though. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, it's hard.
This is Nick's thing, Ashton. So I'm going to sell.
That's impressive.
I'm going to sell Nick's channel here. So Nick speaks about stuff that's good that went on years ago in World War II and prior to World War II and a little bit after World War II with the technology. And he looks up a lot of that stuff. He did a show on Alien Addict, which is pretty good. He did a show on Terrestrial's channel, which is phenomenal.
Yeah, really good to say the least. Yeah,
because I think Nick, I got you on first when you'd never done a show before, an interview with anybody.
I've never listened to it.
No, you were great, mate. You were great, mate. You were great. But he'd done a few live shows with us. Then you went on ice cream. But he's a great researcher in this old technology that's been around for a long, long time. So go follow Nick. He's a good guy.
Well, basically, I look into the Nazi flying saucer conspiracy. I basically lay out the whole foundations from A to Z, where it started. I relay everything out. The Maria Orsic, the turbine-driven aircraft, literally everything. So that's my research, and it's full-time research. So I know what it's like, Ashton. It can take a toll, and it's like every day. It's like, okay, let's take a break a little bit,
That's what I respect, man. It takes a lot of work to do a lot of this stuff, man. So people should respect that. I think the content creators, if you're a good content creator that researches the stuff, they're spending a lot of time, probably 5 times as much time behind the scenes as they do in front of the camera. So.
Definitely. And for people that in ufology that want to go back and see where it may have stemmed from, that's the channel to kind of look at there. So go look at Nick. Terrestrial, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on this show?
We see Nick's got the past covered for us, right? And so I'm trying to cover the current and the present for us.
I'm getting like a Christmas special here, like ghosts, like past, present, and future thing going on.
Maybe Ashton's got the future. You know what I mean? This is what we got right here. You look at what you put together, you sly mother, dude. Look at you.
Maybe the percentage of these cans of beer are a little bit too high. Go on, carry on.
Yeah. No. So every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern, on my YouTube channel, Terrestrial Material, that you can check it out. And I go over the news of the week and I give you my takes on it and reactions of it. And I did change the Twitter. It was at Ice Cream Shots, but now it's at Terrestrial Matt. My real name has 2 T's. You don't walk on me, but this has got 1. You know what I mean? But yeah. So every Sunday, 1 p.m. EST, I'll go over the news. Yeah.
Awesome, man. And we love having you here, mate. We love having you. You've been a good friend of the channel and a good friend of me.
Thanks, man.
Ashton, my lad, you going live after this?
Yeah, I'm gonna go get some food, but then I'm gonna talk about double slit experiment delayed. I already forgot it, or the eraser delayed variant of the double slit experiment later tonight. Yeah, I'm gonna be probably paring down my live streams to like 3 or so a week so that I can increase the production quality. I'm kind of moving away from the investigation side of the MH370 stuff where it was like you just watch me investigate. Now I want it to be like more structured content. And, I try to figure out where my niche was going to be, but I think there's already enough people like Matt over here and Alien Girl, who I saw in the chat earlier, Skyfire News, that are kind of talking about the UFO stuff. So if there's interesting stuff related to that, I may talk about it. But for the most part, I'm going to be trying to focus on the science, the future, in terms of what's out there and just stuff I find interesting as well. So feel free to follow me as well.
Is that like in an hour then? Because I'm just trying to wonder if I can get on the couch and have another beer.
Oh yeah, go take a quick nap. Like in an hour or so, probably hour and a half.
I'll be there. I'll be there in the chat.
That's gonna be a fun one because it's weird, man. And actually, I just got a text message from somebody I'm hoping to do an interview with about retrocausality because I just think it's funny. I dismissed this idea that like we could change the past or anything like that. And now I don't know anymore. Now I'm wondering if it's like the show Dark or the movie Tenet, where it's like you can go to the past, but whatever happened always happened and you can't change it. So it's like you could go visit your younger self, but like if you don't think your older self visited you, it's because you didn't recognize yourself, right? Like that's just a weird concept. So I'm not sure. I still don't think it's really possible, but I'm opening my mind to it. We'll see.
Time's a weird thing though, like with the whole atomic clocks, when they went around the Earth and like
time dilation. Mm-hmm. And when you check out the double slit thing I'm going to do later tonight, I think it'll creep you out even more where you're going to go like, we can literally predict the future with this experiment where like the result that you see in one shows up before the light even gets to a splitter, which is going to determine which direction it's going to go and how it should act. So it's like you're almost telling the future of where the light went before it actually even got to the intersection. And that's where it's like, okay, what the hell is going on here? What does this really mean? And what does time really mean at that point? Yeah. So should be interesting.
Links in the description, people. If you are watching this in like a week's time, the link is still in the description and you'll still be able to watch that show. But guys, we have reached the 2-hour mark. And I'm not going to get this beer again because it's a little bit strong. But hey-ho. It's been fun. Make sure you go and check out our merch because it's got literally about I think it's got about a week left. How long's left till the end of the month, boys? It's about a week and 2 days.
About a week.
Yeah.
Oh, you're changing it up?
Oh yeah, all these are coming off. All these are coming off.
Oh, I gotta get some. I've already got my MH371. I gotta get that one, Squatch one.
And they're getting changed. Well, there we go. If anybody buys one, send us a picture. Nobody's sending us pictures. Send us pictures. Apart from Fishlot there with his beer, my lad, and his alien addict on the phone. I did Photoshop that. But tomorrow, people, we got Chupacabra coming on. Not tomorrow. No, Sunday. Tomorrow we're not doing a show. Lee's ill. Lee is really ill, by the way. Yeah, he looks ill. He really does. Tomorrow, Sunday, we have the one and only Chupacabra. I cannot wait for this. This is going to be like, it's just going to be gravy, people. Just going to be gravy. Because that guy, I really like Skyfair. I like what they're putting together there. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I know you guys have been on that show, like recently.
Yeah, they're awesome, dude. They've been really nice.
It's a cool thing that Keem's put together, and I think the boys there are just. It's going to be big. It's going to be a really cool show, and I think anybody if people are really honest, like even the debunkers, they're getting their information from there because it's quick, it's snappy, and it's straight out there. So
a lot of people are for sure.
Yeah. So just know where your bread's buttered, people. That's what I'm going to say.
Speaking of knowing where the bread's buttered, since they're ending that T-shirt campaign, Ash, I'm gonna make sure you get that check, bro. They ain't gonna close it up without getting you your money.
Oh, I'm buying this T-shirt right now. That's what I'm doing literally at this moment. I think I'm going to gray. There we go. Done. I'm getting that Bigfoot T-shirt. Can't wait.
I appreciate that. We appreciate that, Ashton. let's just face it, you're never going to come on with a t-shirt. It's always going to be full check.
I almost wore the MH370 didn't disappear itself one today, but no, I decided we're going with the flannel here.
Yeah, no,
Christmas t-shirt.
I think you should always be. I think this is your thing now. I think.
Oh, it might be.
Yeah. There you go. Right. Good night, God bless people. Mind the books, don't bite. Alien Addict, subscribe and all that jazz. And remember, we are on Spotify, Apple, all those things. Go check us out. Good night.
This lie is protected by what's called a waived, unacknowledged special access program, which essentially means the dirtiest secret of all inside the US military-industrial complex. These are the most highly protected secrets in the United States. And these WUSAPs require anyone read into these programs to lie.
Imagine everything you've been taught, whether it's through Sunday school or through regular formal education in school, or what our political leaders have told us. And yes, even maybe our mothers and fathers around the dinner table have told us, or maybe at bedtime, about who we are, right? And our background and our past. What if all of that turned out to be not entirely accurate?
Do you believe that our government is in possession of UAPs?
Absolutely, based on interviewing over 40 witnesses over 4 years. I know the exact locations.
I should also state clearly for the record that in our research, AARO has found no credible evidence thus far of extraterrestrial activity, off-world technology, or objects that defy the known laws of physics.
So, sir, I need to get an express statement from you. Yeah. What is your position about the truthfulness of Dr. Sean Kirkpatrick in the evidence he gave last week to Congress?
I think that it was a transparent, willful, conscious lie.
Sunday, people, Sunday. I have no idea why Lee stopped sending me pictures of your penis.
I got my Bigfoot shirt.
You've got your big. Ashton's got his Bigfoot shirt. There you go. Boom. So is Fishlock, my lad.